Hey truckers, here is part 6 of the guide to conquering Earthlings. Let's dive into the video. Sleeping was just sleeping. How did it suddenly become connected to reproduction? She was utterly puzzled. Do you want to have children? She thought it was perfectly natural to follow the topic mentioned by Xiaqing. However, Xiaqing looked at her in shock, as if she had just uttered something outrageous. He even stammered nervously, what? Xiaqing's face turned red for some reason. I haven't thought that far ahead. I think we're still young. Even if we get married in the future, we can talk about having children later. I haven't thought that far. If you're worried that having children will affect your career or anything else, I can assure you that if something happens between us, I will take proper contraceptive measures. She was already puzzled, and now she became even more confused. Xiaqing, who had been quite composed, seemed a bit hesitant and nervous. But this wasn't a major disagreement. She felt that the biggest difference between her and Xiaqing was they belonged to different species. However, it was difficult to express this directly. After all, she didn't want to be sent to a research institute for dissection. She thought for a moment and found a more subtle way to phrase it. Putting aside the future for now, don't you think that we are completely different in terms of personality, habits, upbringing, and dietary preferences? Don't you see me as if I'm from another planet? We have so many differences. After I conquer you, won't you rebel and try to overthrow my rule? She was very nervous, to the point that she forgot to hide some expressions in her wording. However, as she looked into Xiaqing's eyes, she felt a dangerous impulse that was somewhat provocative. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, I might want to be, a princess in our relationship. I would want to rule over you. No, I won't. Xiaqing's answer was without any hesitation or concern. He just looked deeply into Shi's eyes. You are my princess. How could this be? Xiaqing only said a few words, yet Shi felt as if her entire being was floating in the air. She felt like she had a mouthful of Earth's popping candy, and not only her mouth but her whole soul was jumping and resonating. The linguistic power of Earthlings was truly astonishing. Although Xia Yunfei seemed to have a larger company under his future management, and Wang Jiqiang said he had more prospects, but Xiaqing also mentioned that the company left for Xia Yunfei was in severe losses, while Qingxin's future was bright. Moreover, although Xia Yunfei spoke far more than Xiaqing, he didn't possess the same linguistic power as Xiaqing. After all, Shi's heart remained unaffected by Xia Yunfei's sweet words, but even a casual remark from Xiaqing would make her blush, her heart race, and her hands weak. If she could learn this aspect from Earthlings, the Mui Star people could conquer the universe with words alone. And so far, Xiaqing was outstanding in the art of language and influence. If she wanted to learn, she naturally had to learn from the strongest. She felt it was her duty to update the guide to conquering Earthlings and to stay by the side of the Earthling with the strongest linguistic prowess. Besides, he clearly acknowledged her position as a princess. So, it seemed possible to change the mission a bit and directly conquer Xiaqing. But she still had one question: why did we stop the car on the side of the road to talk about this? Couldn't we talk while driving and save some time to go back and have dinner? Speaking of dinner, she was indeed getting a bit hungry. Xiaqing took a moment before responding. His voice was deep, tinged with a restrained helplessness. Because I can't guarantee that I'll be in the right state of mind to ensure safe driving while saying those words just now. I love algorithms, I excel in algorithms, and I'm obsessed with algorithms. Even my job revolves around studying algorithms. But you have nothing to do with any set elements. You don't play by the rules, you're not ordinary, you're not in usual circumstances. You have no connection to convention, and you're definitely not mediocre. You truly seem like you're from another planet. But no one said that different people can't be together. Everyone has their own compatible partner or friend, even if they come from another planet. You leave me unable to predict. Algorithms crumble in your presence. Yet, this makes me even more eager to spend the future with you because you bring an entirely unpredictable and new life to me. It's not a smooth path, nor is it a step-by-step journey. Though departing from plans and algorithms carries risks, I now realize that the adventure itself is intriguing. I always thought of myself as a strategist who could handle everything with composure. I prepared these words for a long time, thinking that I wouldn't be as nervous as a grade schooler when confessing my feelings to you. But the reality proves otherwise. No matter how well prepared I am, no matter how many times I rehearse, when I'm in front of you, I'm still at a loss. So, that's why I have to park the car. I can't guarantee safe driving in such a tense situation. Even now, after saying these words, I still need to spend 10 minutes here to calm my excited emotions. Xie Cheng's light-colored eyes were profound and sincere, filled with both pride and humility. He looked at Lan Shi and said, "So, Lan Shi, can you be with me?" Explore new ovals on nvelbai.com. When should we have dinner? Xie Cheng froze for a moment, then a tinge of disappointment crossed his face. Nonetheless, he forced a calm smile and said to Lan Shi, "I had originally made plans with Wang Yan to discuss a data issue at work. If you don't mind, we can all go together. It's a well-reputed Western restaurant." As he spoke, he lowered his head, seemingly concealing his emotions. After a moment, he looked up again. "Of course, if you feel uncomfortable and don't want to have dinner with me, I can simply take you back to your dormitory. It's okay if you don't want to answer right away. Although I naturally hope to get an answer as soon as possible, I'll wait." "I don't want to avoid answering," Lan Shi interrupted Xie Cheng. She glanced at him and noticed that as soon as her words fell, Xie Cheng's eyes lit up with anticipation, like a large dog attentively staring at its owner. Such a gaze was captivating, but it also made Lan Shi nervous. She cleared her throat slightly. "I accept your challenge, so we are now a couple," she said, somewhat awkwardly. But she added an explanation, "I'm not changing the subject, I just believe that couples should have dinner together." It was a magical moment. The instant her words fell, Xie Cheng's eyes sparkled like stars in the sky, illuminating everything for Lan Shi. The man in the driver's seat spoke with a trembling voice, a mix of laughter and nervous tension. In the end, countless words condensed into a single sentence. "I request another 10 minutes, or maybe 15, to take a break." Xie Cheng smiled, "I'm so glad." Wang Yan was looking forward to seeing Xie Cheng with great anticipation. She dressed up carefully, spending nearly a month's salary on a dress and spraying on new perfume, just waiting for this candlelight dinner date between the two. Although it was said to be a work-related talk, Wang Yan felt that since there was an opportunity for private contact, there was hope. Moreover, Xie Cheng would surely see through a fickle person like Lan Shi. At this moment, her own appearance like a blossoming flower would surely make him look at her in a new light. However, what Wang Yan did not expect was that although Xie Cheng arrived at the restaurant on time, he had brought Lan Shi with him. The two were not holding hands, but the tenderness in Xie Cheng's eyes could not conceal that he was almost constantly paying attention to Lan Shi's every move. Because the work matters you wanted to discuss, Lan Shi's side will also have access to relevant data. "So I brought Lan Shi along," Xie Cheng gave a high-sounding reason, but Wang Yan did not buy it at all. Although it was true that Lan Shi had a good grasp of data, she had been transferred to Qing'an and was not connected with some of the current data. Naturally, there was nothing that could find fault in Xiaqing. He had agreed to meet Wang Yan to discuss work matters, so he went all out focusing on several issues to have an in-depth discussion with Wang Yan. His questions were incisive, and the suggestions he gave were also very pertinent and professional. Once he went into work mode, he did not have any irrelevant topics with Lan Shi at all. Lan Shi also did not interrupt at all, just listening quietly. But Wang Yan became even more bothered by this. What bothered her was that indefinable ambiguity and tacit understanding between them, even though there were no overtly questionable actions between them. Xiaqing would call over a waiter when Lan Shi stuck out her tongue after sipping some cocktail that was too strong for her, and change her drink to juice. He would hand her a tissue when she coughed. When Lan Shi took more than a couple bites of a dish that was far for her to easily reach, he would help pick up some for her. As Xiaqing's former schoolmate, Wang Yan had seen many times how coolly and distantly Xiaqing treated his admirers. Therefore, the matter-of-fact thoughtfulness he displayed towards Lan Shi pained and distressed Wang Yan even more. Why Lan Shi? What made her so special? Just because she was pretty? Wang Yan's eyes and nose stung badly. One's eyes cannot lie. Xiaqing liked Lan Shi. So he would not even mind Lan Shi's past, her background, her eccentricities. A dinner that Wang Yan had looked forward to ended up ruining her appetite, leaving her feeling defeated. Anger and frustration swept over her, so when Xiaqing called to invite her over for tea, she did not turn him down. She desperately needed someone to vent to. Xiaqing had originally been extremely anxious and impatient. After hearing his son's report, he was simply furious. Don't you have abundant experience fooling around with women? Your name floats around the entertainment section headlines every day. Either some woman is fighting over you, or you're cheating on another one. You haven't accomplished anything worthwhile, but your only competence seems to be these male-female relationships. And now when I asked you to seduce a country bumpkin of a girl, even you can't succeed. As a result, Xia Yunfei still argued slyly, Dad, you can't blame me either. There seems to be something wrong with that girl's brain. She says whatever absurd thing that pops into her head. I thought things were going well, but suddenly this girl applied to transfer back from Ching'an to Qingxian again. She hardly picks up my calls or replies to my texts. Xia Yunfei clearly did not want to admit failure and was trying to find all sorts of excuses to shirk responsibility. Opportunity favors the prepared mind. After racking his brains, he did manage to come up with an idea. Dad, I heard gossip say that this Lan Shi has autism spectrum disorder with severe social and communication impairments. When people chat with her, her replies often don't make sense. She also has comprehension issues. Sometimes her behavior and speech are like she's from outer space, totally inappropriate. My skills at seducing girls have never failed before. If even I can't succeed with her, it's not my problem. She's the one with issues. Looking at his incompetent son, Xiaqing felt his headache worsening. He shouldn't have placed any hopes on him in the first place. What could that good-for-nothing accomplish? He would have to take matters into his own hands and make an effort to salvage the situation. Xiaqing thought for a bit, then hurriedly gave Wang Yan a call. Under the guise of caring for his junior, he invited her over to his house for tea and to chat and reminisce. Xiaqing did regularly meet up with Wang Yan as well. He had also probed in a roundabout way, trying to obtain information about Qingxian technology from Wang Yan. But although Wang Yan was quite unguarded with him about other matters, venting about the difficulties of work, Xiaqing's inconsideration, and annoying colleagues, her lips sealed up tight when it came to anything involving work information. Her professional ethics left Xiaqing speechless. However, that was the past. After all, in Xiaqing's perspective, Wang Yan's feelings for Xiaqing were already evident. The main reason why Wang Yan desperately tried to safeguard Xia Cheng and protect Ching Xian Technology's trade secrets was because of these feelings. So now, if Xia Cheng and Lan Shi did end up together, wouldn't these former feelings transform? Intense love, if unrequited, can easily turn into intense hatred. Soon, Xia Jing got his answer. Wang Yan came to Xia Jing's house looking completely crestfallen. She nearly burst into tears the moment she saw Xia Jing. Just a few leading words from Xia Jing, and Wang Yan really did spill all her bitterness without restraint. How could big brother Xia Cheng fall for Lan Shi's tricks? That woman really is shameless. She seduced big brother Yunfei in the past too. Here was the moment Xia Jing had been waiting for. He put on the expression of a kindly uncle and sympathetically patted Wang Yan's back to comfort her for a few moments, before he started to slowly reel her in. Wang Yan, actually uncle also has a favor to ask of you. Right now, it seems that it would actually be for the better. After all, your big brother Xia Cheng is still my nephew. Finding such a lousy woman now, if I don't interfere, the business will surely be ruined by that woman. You know that the meteorological software system Ching Xian Technology is about to launch is its most valuable product, right? Of course, if the intellectual property rights are kept in Xia Cheng's hands there won't be an issue, but Xia Cheng is now completely bewitched by Lan Shi. If they actually get married in the future and she becomes the new mistress, then with such a huge fortune under her control, won't she just ask for whatever she wants? Xia Jing tempted her persuasively. You should know that gold-digging women like her only care about money. As long as the man has money, she'll cling on tightly and never let go. So when will you ever have a chance for your big brother Xia Cheng to see your sincerity? The only way to possibly drive Lan Shi away is to let Xia Cheng suffer some losses first and get hit hard. When he loses his wealth and becomes destitute, that woman will naturally leave. And at that time when Xia Cheng is in a fragile state, if you keep him company, only then would he see people's true colors and cherish you more. Isn't that right? Sure enough, Wang Yan stopped crying. Her brows were slightly furrowed as she looked probingly at Xia Jing. Uncle Xia, what you mean is... What I mean is, you are also a core employee of Ching Xian. If you can get the data and core source code for the meteorological software that's about to launch and bring it out to me, I can have Ching'an publish it first and occupy the priority rights to this intellectual property. Wouldn't that both protect the ownership of the software and give Xia Cheng an opportunity to see those around him clearly? Xia Jing's voice was full of temptation. After all, Lan Shi is an outsider who just wants to latch onto wealth. But with the software kept within our own trusted circle in Ching Xian and Ching'an, still under the Xia family name, wouldn't you agree? Of course, it's not like I haven't arranged for others to do this too, but to be honest, I feel that they are not as reliable as you. Xia Jing set the stage, tempting, implying, and goading. After a while, it looked like Wang Yan was moved. After pondering silently for a moment, it seemed she had made a decision. I can do it, but I don't want too many people working on this simultaneously. As you know, Big Brother Xia Cheng is very shrewd. I don't want anything to leak out and have him find out in the end. So Uncle Xia Jing, I hope you can call off your other subordinates. Let me be the only one to handle this. Is that okay? Of course it was okay. Better than okay. With Wang Yan willing to make a move, wouldn't that be much more reliable than anyone else? After all, she was close to Xia Cheng and had more access privileges to Ching Xian's internal data. Wang Yan paused for a moment, glanced at Xia Jing, and continued, however, it would be best if you could give me a list of your people's names so that I can coordinate with them when necessary. Naturally, that's no problem. Xia Jing was overjoyed. Although he had planted some people in Xia Cheng's company, none of them had access to core secrets like Wang Yan. Now that Wang Yan was willing to backstab and steal data because of love turned into hatred, nothing could be better. According to Xie Jing's knowledge, the copyright of Xie Cheng's meteorological software was still in the application process. If everything went smoothly, the certificate would be issued soon, and Xie Cheng would immediately launch the software after obtaining the certificate. Follow the latest novels n/velbin.com. Therefore, if Xie Jing could publish it first before Xie Cheng finished the application, seizing the opportunity, then even if he was sued in the future, he could plead his case using the defense of prior publication and eventually get a share of the profits. After bidding Wang Yan farewell, Xie Jing's mood finally brightened up again. Now it's steady. Xie Cheng, did you expect this? He was filled with complex emotions. After all, women should not be involved in big matters. No matter how smart a woman is, the moment she encounters love, she loses all reason. Although Wang Yan was well educated, the moment Xie Cheng was mentioned, she became hot-headed. Women, after all, have long hair but short wisdom. Thinking of this, he still had the advantage of being born a son compared to women. After easing his mood, Xie Jing looked at Xie Yunfei again and found him much more pleasing to the eye. Xie Yunfei clearly also felt Xie Jing's change of mood. He seized the opportunity and said, "Dad, that Xie Cheng is definitely not normal. Just listen to what little Yan said earlier. He got together with Lan Shi. What does this show? It shows that Xie Cheng is also a lecherous person. Otherwise, how could he make a move on someone like Lan Shi, who has some mental disabilities and obstacles? In fact, little Yan is silly too. Could Xie Cheng possibly take Lan Shi as his future companion? He just wants to play with her because she is so beautiful." Speaking of this, Xie Yunfei became dissatisfied again. In fact, women like Lan Shi are very easy to deceive if one really wants to trick them. "I only approached her in the normal way of pursuing a woman at first because I didn't know she was abnormal, had autism. If I had known about her disability, I would not have been so gradual. I would have just tricked her into bed." Isn't coaxing someone with autism similar to coaxing a child? Buying them 2 of their favorite ice creams could probably get them to do anything. Xie Yunfei had no particular intention in saying this, but his words suddenly gave Xie Jing a brilliant idea. The highest level of business warfare is often conducted in the simplest forms. In addition to directly persuading Wang Yan to help embezzle critical data, Xie Jing decided to also wage a public opinion war, first defeating Xie Cheng's reputation and miring him in scandals to restrain his energy. A 2-pronged approach would be perfect. While Xie Jing was thinking of ways to prepare himself against Lan Shi and Xie Cheng, Lan Shi had completely forgotten about Xie Jing's existence. She was quite satisfied with her recent life after establishing a relationship of mutual conquest with Xie Cheng. Although Xie Cheng was still very professional and kept work and personal matters separate during working hours, after get off work, he took Lan Shi to experience many things she had never tried before. Xie Cheng took her for a boat ride on the largest freshwater lake in Rome City under the night sky, ate an authentic lakeside dinner on the lakeside bed, went to see the blooming lotus flowers in an ancient garden in Rome City, held hands as they strolled along the stone roads of an old street in Rome City, tried the traditional local desserts and snacks of Rome City, listened to the traditional song and dance performances of Rome City, the graceful and gentle movements of girls in ancient flowing sleeves accompanied by melodious sounds of silk and bamboo instruments that continued without cease. It turned out that Earth had so many fun and delicious things. Lan Shi had thought that her understanding of Earth food had already evolved comprehensively at the buffet, but she discovered that her knowledge of Earth was still shallow after following Xie Cheng. Earth had too many wonderful things. She remembered the evening breeze on the cruise ship, remembered the sunset, remembered the rich and delicate sweetness, and remembered Xie Cheng's gentle eyebrows, smiling lips, the warmth of holding hands, and more. Lan Shi felt that everything was so wonderful, and Xie Cheng, who brought her all these new experiences, was even more pleasing no matter how she looked at him. So this was how it felt to conquer an Earth person? No wonder when Lanshi was still on Mui's star, she always heard her brothers and sisters boast about the sense of accomplishment from conquering a planet and its inhabitants. Their proud and happy looks were deeply etched in Lanshi's mind, so much so that she always yearned to travel far alone after coming of age. It was at this moment that she finally understood the joy of conquest. She had chosen right in picking this Earth person, Xia Qing, as her target. Lanshi had never conquered anyone before, so she didn't have an objective basis for judgment. But she was biased to think that Xia Qing was simply the best and most correct conquest target. After all, she was a princess. How could a princess' eyes and choice be wrong? However, when she thought of her identity as a princess, Lanshi became troubled again. Not only did the Earthling Conquest Guides say it, but all the online guides to conquering men also mentioned. The most important thing to maintain a relationship is honesty and sharing. Never conceal major issues, including family background, physical condition, financial status, etc. Concealing such problems will not only fail to gloss over them but also bury landmines for your future, causing unpredictable relationship breakdowns. When Lanshi thought of this almost unanimous advice and earnest persuasion, she felt heavy-hearted. How should she confess her identity as a princess of Mui's star to Xia Qing? If she only wanted to conquer Xia Qing for a while and then train him as a subordinate or future Earth agent, then there was no hurry to confess. Still, Lanshi now felt that developing a healthy and orderly boyfriend-girlfriend relationship of mutual spiritual conquest with Xia Qing was lovely. She was even a little addicted. On Earth, such relationships required confession as early as possible. She had to find an opportunity and think of a way. However, Lanshi did not expect that plans could never catch up with changes. Before she could prepare the atmosphere to confess to Xia Qing, a news article suddenly appeared out of thin air, pushing both Lanshi and Xia Qing to the cusp of public opinion. It all started with an anonymous post in the water cooler section of the forum at the university Xia Qing graduated from. Family members, who understands the feeling when an idol falls? Do you still remember Xia Qing, the prestigious senior of the previous few batches? After graduation, he started his own company independently and even recruited many juniors to work there. I had always regarded him as an idol before, but unexpectedly, he turns out to be a person of such low character. He actually the socially assisted employee specially recruited by the company. This whistleblower spoke with certainty, claiming to be an insider but had no internal stake in the incident. Because he could not stand to see the sexual consent rights of vulnerable groups being infringed and some men using their power in the workplace to commit sex crimes, he took the huge risk to stand up for the victimized girl. However, while paying lip service to protecting the victim, this whistleblower directly disclosed all of Lanshi's information. The girl he is called Lanshi. She is from the mountainous area with deceased parents and has autism spectrum disorder. She has difficulty completing normal communication and socialization but has powerful computational and data analysis abilities. It was challenging for her to find a job and stand on her own feet, but because she is too beautiful, she suffered from Xia Qing's harassment at work. In the end, Xia Qing took advantage of her vulnerability as someone from a disadvantaged group who could not protect herself. Using his power as the boss in the workplace, he coerced her to submit through intimidation and temptation. As we all know, although people with autism can also get married, the possibility of them taking the initiative for love and marriage is minimal. Lanshi has been unable to receive formal autism treatment and has severe deficits in social interaction and understanding. She simply cannot comprehend matters between men and women. A girl so fragile as her has no power to protect herself against a sturdy man like Xia Qing. Therefore, Xia Qing succeeded in forcing himself on her. Under this post, there were initially many people who held skeptical attitudes. Come on, have you seen Senior Xia Qing's photos? He's so handsome, is it necessary? When he was in school, there were so many girls chasing him, and he never accepted any of them. If it was really like what you said, he would have come to whoever came along at that time without any legal risks at all. That's right. Would Xiaqing need to target autistic patients? However, the situation took a reversal after the whistleblower posted Lan Shi's photo. Damn! This girl looks like this? If she's not an AI-generated image but a real person, then I can only say, she indeed makes people want to commit a crime when looking at her. I suddenly feel like this seems a bit true. I think I'm starting to believe this leak a little. A hot tip, just because a man is handsome doesn't mean he won't commit sex crimes. The whistleblower had so many details that match up, it doesn't feel like there's no rhyme or reason. I can't believe it's really a case of not knowing someone's true colors. To think Xiaqing is actually a wolf in sheep's clothing like this. What autism? What social disorders? Aren't those Earth people's problems? They have nothing to do with Lan Shi. Besides, what do they mean her strength is not on par with Xiaqing's and that's why he was able to force himself onto her? Is Xiaqing her equal? That's simply nonsense. This is slander against the princess. It's an insult to the Mui Star royal family. Lan Shi was very angry at such distorted facts. She wanted to keep reading to see if there were any more preposterous remarks, but Xiaqing took her phone away. Don't read anymore. Xiaqing didn't look very happy, but his tone towards Lan Shi was gentle. Qing Xian's public relations department discovered this information first. It was initially circulating on the forum of my alma mater and quickly spread to other social media once promoters and marketing accounts got involved. Currently, because your photo is truly too beautiful and eye-catching, it has sparked a lot of discussion. In recent years, the Me Too movement's voice has also been loud. This post has strong leading tendencies and has now been tagged with women's rights and vulnerable group rights topics for autistic patients, so it's very hot. Our PR team is already handling it. Especially for the platforms that spread your personal information and photos, we will request them to take it down on the grounds of infringement of privacy, and we will sue them for damages afterwards. The company will bear all legal costs, but we need you to sign an authorization letter to appoint us as your agent. Xiaqing said up to this point and looked at Lan Shi, I'm telling you about this matter because your signature is needed to inform you, since if possible, I don't want you to see these things and have it affect your mood. Xiaqing looked very apologetic. I'm very sorry to have you get involved in this kind of incident because of me. As an ordinary person, you should have never needed to interact with the news media and public opinion throughout your life. This kind of discussion and slander will definitely put great psychological pressure on you. Lan Shi felt this was a good opportunity to reveal her identity. What could bring two hearts closer together more than enduring hardships hand in hand? I'm not under any pressure at all. Lan Shi movedly grabbed Xiaqing's hand, determined to seize the day. She looked deeply into Xiaqing's eyes. In fact, this works out just fine. I have a secret I want to tell you, one about my background and past. Xiaqing was stunned, but very soon, it was as if he already knew what Lan Shi wanted to say. I don't care about your background, nor do I care about your past. Even if you made mistakes or didn't take good care of yourself in the past, I won't blame you. I would only feel that it would have been better if I had met you earlier, because that way I could have protected you better. It was natural for Xiaqing to associate those things. Lan Shi was from the rural areas and was adopted by some kind of unknown family that brainwashed her into having unhealthy views of love and even guided her to use her body to earn money. But none of that was important. Your past is already in the past. I only care about the present you and the future you, so you don't need to explain your past to me, nor do you need to recall those unhappy things anymore. That wouldn't do. Besides, what bad things had she encountered? As a princess, the most unfortunate thing Lan-Shi had experienced in her life was the incorrect interstellar travel and forced landing on Earth. But now, she was quite satisfied with it too. If she hadn't crash-landed on Earth, how could she have eaten so many delicious Earth foods and conquered Xiaqing? Lan-Shi had originally wanted to create a more romantic and ambiguous atmosphere before revealing the truth, but who would have thought Xiaqing was so insensitive to romance that he didn't even want to listen? She was a little anxious now. Forgetting to set the stage and be tactful, she blatantly blurted out, "I'm actually not human. I came from Mui Star. I accidentally crash-landed on Earth due to an error while interstellar traveling. And my identity, it might frighten you when I say it out loud, because it's truly too noble." Xiaqing froze as expected. At this point, Lan-Shi restrained her emotions a little and cleared her throat. She held Xiaqing's hand and urged, "Don't be frightened by the next words. I'm not some nameless ordinary civilian from Mui Star, but rather, a princess. As the esteemed princess of Mui Star, I often occupy the front page headlines of Mui Star, so you don't need to worry that I'm not used to public attention, because days like this are my norm." She patted Xiaqing on the shoulder. "You don't need to feel pressured. Although my status is noble, I'm sure you can also tell that I'm a down-to-earth princess without airs. As a princess, my vision is naturally not to be questioned either. Since I have chosen you to be my boyfriend, don't look down on yourself or feel inferior because of my noble status, to the point of refusing to understand my past." Lan-Shi thought she had explained considerately enough. However, not only was there no delight on Xiaqing's face, his expression grew more and more grave. "Lan-Shi, have you felt uncomfortable anywhere lately?" He directly cut her off and felt Lan-Shi's forehead, then revealed a puzzled and even more worried look. "No fever." Having said that, he comfortingly stroked Lan-Shi's head. "Wait a moment, I'm going to make a call." Lan-Shi didn't object and nodded in agreement to show approval. See, just one mentioned that she was the princess, and even small things like making a call had to be reported. It seemed her worries were unnecessary before. Xiaqing was indeed the Earth person she had looked favorably upon with superb receptiveness. However, what Lan-Shi didn't know was, Xiaqing's expression was grave as he found a private spot far from Lan-Shi and then called Professor Wu. "So what you mean is, high-functioning autistic patients can indeed show symptoms of hallucinations or hearing voices? For cases like this, treatment must consist of taking antidepressants or antipsychotic medication under doctor's guidance and prescription after diagnosis, correct?" On the other end of the phone, Professor Wu very patiently gave Xiaqing a simple introduction of autism's symptoms of auditory and visual hallucinations. And he added another possibility: if there was harm or stimulus suffered in childhood, as a self-protection mechanism, the child could also use non-existent hallucinations to avoid tragic experiences. It's more common for children who suffered induced assault to beautify the assaulter, and eventually, under self-suggestion, believe that they are in a romantic relationship with the other party. There are also some special Stockholm Syndrome patients. Professor Wu's conclusion was concise and to the point: cases like this must be treated urgently. This was naturally affirmative, but the hard and headache-inducing part was, Lan-Shi is extremely resistant to going to the hospital. Xiaqing had suggested more than once that Lan-Shi go to the hospital. Although he didn't mind Lan-Shi's uniqueness, he still hoped Lan-Shi could receive professional medical services. However, each time it was mentioned, Lan-Shi's expression would drastically change, appearing extremely fearful of hospitals and stubbornly refusing to go no matter what. In that case, she likely has some psychological shadow or trauma related to hospitals or doctors in the past. Anyway, autistic patients often highly immerse themselves in their own worlds, and their comprehension abilities also differ from ordinary people's. But forcibly taking an autistic patient to the hospital, not only would they not understand, but it could also trigger a stress response. Autistic patients themselves tend to have volatile emotions to begin with, so my advice is, communicate well first. If a patient with autism spectrum disorder develops a fantasy, there is usually an underlying reason, Professor Wu explained over the phone. Try to understand and gradually get to the heart of what's troubling them. Only then can you properly address the issue and convince them to accept treatment. That way, you'll make much faster progress. Xiaqing made a mental note of the advice before thanking Professor Wu and ending the call. Could Lanshi have imagined herself as an alien princess because of the inhumane treatment she endured growing up? He could hardly fathom what setbacks and trials Lanshi must have weathered to arrive where she was today. Her looks made her vulnerable to mistreatment, her condition invited unfair judgment. Xiaqing was well aware that those nasty online rumors were likely Xiaqing's doing. While Xiaqing's legal team had already sent cease and desist letters demanding the offensive posts be removed, such salacious gossip tended to spread rapidly, especially when Xiaqing had shamelessly included Lanshi's photo. The internet harbored all manner of monsters, and naturally there was no shortage of insults and attacks directed at Xiaqing. But what truly disturbed him were the lewd remarks about Lanshi. He would make sure everyone who had ever hurt Lanshi paid the price. Clenching his fist, Xiaqing thought back to the sincere excitement in Lanshi's eyes earlier when she haughtily declared herself a princess. His heart ached even more. He would never let Lanshi get hurt again. He would stay by her side, protect her, cherish her, and fulfill her deepest dreams by making her a princess, his princess. And Xiaqing would be her knight. Xiaqing's phone call was a bit long enough to make Lanshi start to feel a little nervous and anxious. Xiaqing was too calm, not showing any of the joy and excitement that should come with being selected by the princess, which was not normal. Could it be that he was so extremely excited that he became numb and at a loss instead? Or after calming down, considering that his other half was the noble princess, he started to feel pressured and afraid of becoming a phoenix male? However, fortunately, just as Lanshi was lost in thought, Xiaqing finally ended his call and walked back to Lanshi. This time, Xiaqing spoke first. His expression was calm, his tone steady and natural. "I believe you are the princess." He smiled at Lanshi. "Since you are the princess, your family must also be members of the royal family, right?" It seemed that Xiaqing really believed her. And he didn't seem to feel too inferior either. Lanshi breathed a sigh of relief. "Of course. Then, as you mentioned before, your family left you a guide to surviving in modern society, right?" "Yes." Unfortunately she didn't have it with her, otherwise Lanshi would have been willing to show Xiaqing the guide. Fortunately, Xiaqing was not concerned about any guide. He just blinked, then said sincerely, "Then can I meet your family? After all, we are dating, and you are such a noble princess, I should at least pay my respects to your royal family." They are all far away on Mui Star. Lanshi was also quite helpless, but... However, there are still many Mui Star citizens on Earth. I heard that many senior members of them also provided material when compiling that guide. If you want to meet them, you can. It's quite a coincidence, there is an alumni meeting of Mui Star people this weekend, and they will all come. Lanshi was very enthusiastic. "Do you want to participate together?" It was really a coincidence. Wang Jiqiang had wanted to organize the second Mui Star alumni reunion meeting for a long time. This reunion was originally planned to be held long ago, but unfortunately Wang Jiqiang was restricted by his wife's curfew after the first reunion meeting. His whereabouts had to be reported, so it was delayed until now when Wang Jiqiang's wife finally relaxed her control over him, and he just notified Lanshi of the time and place for the second reunion. Lanshi thought about it and thoughtfully added, "It's just all aliens, everyone has some special abilities of their own. If you go, you'll be the only vulnerable Earthling there, and at the bottom of the cosmic food chain. I'm afraid you won't feel safe. Providing materials for that crappy guide? Weren't they all trash? How could he not feel safe in front of these trash who took advantage of Lan Shi? The ones who should feel unsafe were these trash who exploited Lan Shi. Xie Qing was going to catch them all and bring them to justice, and then take Lan Shi to the hospital to accompany her and help her receive treatment, so that she could rebuild healthy, normal interpersonal relationships and stay away from these human scum. Xie Qing's voice was firm. I want to go. I'll attend with you. This made Lan Shi extremely happy. That's great. She really breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't expect everything to go so smoothly. Not only did Xie Qing accept her princess identity quickly without any accusations or complaints about her concealment, he was even very proactive and willing to meet Muyi Star's citizens with her. Since Xie Qing was like this already, to repay his kindness, Lan Shi felt that it was also time to give Xie Qing a formal title. Although she couldn't return to her home planet for the time being, at least at the reunion of Muyi Star people on Earth, she decided to formally introduce Xie Qing and give Xie Qing the title of consort in accordance with Earth customs. After being reported to his wife by Xie Qing, Wang Jiqiang had a miserable time keeping a low profile for a while. Fortunately, thanks to his good performance recently, he was granted parole ahead of schedule, which finally allowed him to organize the long-awaited second Muyi Star alumni reunion. Wang Jiqiang thought it over and ultimately still decided to hold the second reunion at Jinlin Clubhouse. After all, the environment here was very private. Besides, Xie Qing had already caught them once. It was said that after that time, he even wrote a report letter to the authorities with huge misunderstandings about Jinlin Clubhouse, completely putting Jinlin Clubhouse on the blacklist. He would definitely not come again no matter what. Therefore, the most dangerous place was the safest place. There would be absolutely no problem holding the second reunion at Jinlin Clubhouse. Wang Jiqiang summed up the problems in the last reunion and made targeted improvements, determined that there could be no mistakes in the second reunion meeting. After all, not long before the reunion started, he had just received a message from Princess Lan Shi. She said she would bring a man, and that she was dating this man. The princess will bring her consort this time. So this is essentially an official announcement event. We must give this new couple the strongest blessing with the highest standard of reception. What Wang Jiqiang said was indeed true. Muyi Star people did not have harsh marriage systems, and reproducing offspring was also done through incubation chambers, so many young people of Muyi Star were unwilling to date like people on Earth, feeling that it was a kind of restraint. Over time, emotional-related courses even became electives, and many Muyi Star people simply would not choose to take such courses, especially royals who worshipped strength and needed to cultivate combat capabilities. They tended to choose practical combat courses like close combat, resulting in marginal students like Wang Jiqiang who performed poorly in combat but excelled in emotional courses basically useless and had to be assigned to Earth. Now Princess Lan Shi, who clearly had never chosen to take emotional courses, had actually learned to date successfully after coming to Earth. Wasn't this very encouraging? Wasn't this a kind of victory for marginal emotional course students? When Princess Lan Shi realized how good dating was and promoted emotional courses vigorously and made good use of talents excellent in emotional courses after she returned to her home planet, wouldn't that be equivalent to Wang Jiqiang promoting educational reform on Muyi Star? Ah! I'm just too outstanding that I was tied down by an Earth woman so early. Otherwise with my talents, as long as I wasn't married so young, when the princess came to Earth, wouldn't she have noticed me at first sight? How could it be someone else's turn? The one who said this was a handsome young Muyi Star man. He obviously regretted very much. I also don't know who the princess is interested in. I know all the Muyi Star people around my age on Earth, but I haven't heard of anyone recently dating the princess. When Wang Jiqiang heard this, he knew that the other party's information was not up to date. He lowered his voice mysteriously. There are some things you don't know. In fact, Princess Lan Shi's cousin, Princess Dongying, has also been hiding on Earth for many years. Recently, through underground alien human resource agencies, she has recruited a group of top talents who have just arrived on Earth from Mui Star at high prices. So recently there are many new goods from our Mui Star on Earth. It's very likely that Princess Lan Shi hit it off with one of them. Wang Jiqiang actually had contact with Dong Ying as well, but he deliberately did not invite Dong Ying to this reunion meeting because even he knew that Dong Ying and Lan Shi did not get along, despite being on the remote Earth. Who to stand with was something Wang Jiqiang had hesitated over, but after careful analysis, he still decided to support Lan Shi. After all, choosing the lesser of two harms, Dong Ying could at most give you a psychological suggestion to embarrass you, which was not fatal in the end, while Lan Shi's combat power could very possibly just beat you to death and physically eliminate you. In short, facing the princess and her consort with a completely new attitude today and getting along well with them, how could he miss out on the benefits later? But Wang Jiqiang looked at the trending search terms and felt a little headache. At such a critical moment, he didn't know which idiot went and spread rumors about the princess's private life. It actually said that the princess and Xiaqing were having an affair. The princess was about to have her relationship announced officially in the Mui Star community with her consort. How could she be tainted by such a scandal? If the consort saw this and was very dissatisfied, this resentment would surely not be directed at the princess, but at Wang Jiqiang himself instead, right? After all, it was him who arranged for Lan Shi to go to Qing'an, which gave Lan Shi and Xiaqing the opportunity to get in contact. No, this matter still had to be handled cleanly. Wang Jiqiang was brooding over this matter as he stood guard at the door of the VIP suite of Jinlin Clubhouse, which was hosting the Mui Star People's matchmaking meeting. He looked on as other attendees signed in, all the while holding out hope that the princess would show up. Good things come to those who wait. Half an hour later, Lan Shi finally appeared at the door. Wang Jiqiang immediately sidled up next to Lan Shi, warily looking around before lowering his voice. "Princess, didn't you say you were going to bring your fiancé? How come you came alone? He had to take an urgent work call just now. I already told him the name of our suite. He'll come right over after finishing his call." "Actually, you already." Wang Jiqiang was overjoyed. This was perfect. He had been wanting to have a private chat with the princess. He eagerly interrupted Lan Shi. "Princess, we're at such a critical juncture, how could you get caught up in such an outrageous scandal with an earthling?" Wang Jiqiang looked pained. "I saw it trending on the internet. They're saying Xiaqing forced himself on you." Lan Shi was taken aback, raising her eyebrows in disbelief. "You can't possibly believe such an outrageous rumor." "Of course not. There are few in the universe who could force themselves on you," Wang Jiqiang said knowingly. He lowered his voice further. "Princess, rumors don't come from nothing. Did you force yourself on Xiaqing?" "Naturally, Xiaqing is quite the looker for an earthling. I understand the princess losing her senses in the heat of passion and making this mistake. But the urgent thing is to figure out how to explain this to your fiancé, otherwise how's he going to feel when he sees the news? He's going to be jealous and cause trouble, destroying your relationship." Here Wang Jiqiang made a slashing motion across his throat. "Want me to take out Xiaqing?" Having said this, Wang Jiqiang fawned obsequiously. "After it's done, don't forget to sing my praises in front of the king and queen. As for your fiancé, since he's still on a work call, it means the environment at his company is no good, making him work overtime on weekends. Give me his resume and I'll arrange for him to join Qing'an Group. That way you two can see each other day and night." "It's perfect." Wang Jiqiang felt he had planned everything perfectly. Just as he was about to continue smugly, he heard a familiar cold voice behind him. "Who's taking me out?" Wang Jiqiang thought he was hearing things. That was Xiaqing's voice. What was he doing here? This was the Mui Star People's second matchmaking and fiancé introduction meeting. What was this guy here for? To crash another event? Or to protest with banners after the princess had forced herself on him? But reality soon gave Wang Jiqiang a resounding slap. Xiaqing slowly walked over from the corridor and stopped next to Lan Shi. Cold sweat instantly poured down Wang Jiqiang's forehead. Although Lan Shi was his mother planet's esteemed princess, his own wife was an earthling. He couldn't afford to offend Xiaqing. He hurriedly explained with an awkward laugh, "Boss Xia, I was just joking. This is a lawful society. It's not so easy to take someone out. I was just joking around with Lan Shi." It wasn't a lie. Wang Jiqiang was going to live long-term on Earth, so he naturally had to abide by laws. His plan for Xiaqing was merely to find a Mui star friend who could erase parts of an Earthling's memories and wipe Xiaqing's. As he wiped his sweat, he pleaded to Lan Shi for help. "Prin. Lan Shi, what a coincidence for Boss Xia to be here today." Wang Jiqiang desperately racked his brains for how to gloss over the situation. But before he could think of something, reality gave him the second resounding slap of the day. "Xiaqing is my boyfriend," Lan Shi said, puzzled. "Didn't you keep clamoring to meet my fiancé?" "Well, here he is. I was about to say earlier that you actually know each other already." Heavens! Wang Jiqiang couldn't help but cry out, "You took an earthling? And you and Xiaqing really have a thing?" At this moment, Wang Jiqiang finally lost control of his emotions. He simply discarded all pretense, using telekinesis to grab a glass of water and guzzling it down. But just as Wang Jiqiang was still reeling, things went from bad to worse. He received a message from President Lin. "Jiqiang, we heard the princess is bringing her fiancé to the second matchmaking meeting today? Why didn't you say so earlier? We're getting on in years and may be out of touch with you young folks, but as elders, we're experienced and perceptive. I specifically called on old Zhang. Now that the princess has a suitor, shouldn't we have old Zhang take a look? We're on our way." Xiaqing reluctantly attended the so-called Mui Star Alien Friendship Association with a suppressed anger. He could hardly imagine what kind of brainwashing these bunch of scumbags had put Lan Shi through, making her believe that she was an alien princess. To his surprise, the organizer of the association turned out to be Wang Jiqiang, and the venue was set at the Jinlin Club. While suppressing his anger, Xiaqing drove with Lan Shi towards the club, thinking of 100 ways to permanently shut down the Jinlin Club. These people were truly lawless. And Wang Jiqiang shamelessly conducted registration in front of the private room. Before entering the room, Xiaqing pretended to receive a work call and asked Lan Shi to go ahead. Naturally, he didn't trust leaving Lan Shi alone. It was just a ploy to lure the snake out of the hole. He had no choice but to let Lan Shi go first, unaware of the situation, while Xiaqing closely followed behind. He had a pinhole camera with him, ready to capture all the criminal activities and submit the evidence to the relevant authorities. As expected, when Wang Jiqiang saw Lan Shi, he had a sly look on his face and whispered something to brainwash her. He even boasted about doing Xiaqing. But even when Xiaqing caught him red-handed, Wang Jiqiang only showed slight nervousness before continuing with his act, repeatedly referring to himself as the princess consort. Xiaqing began to suspect that something was wrong with his mind. If the story had ended there, it would have still been within Xiaqing's comprehension. However, what happened next took a fantastical turn. Wang Jiqiang appeared to be on the verge of collapse, and then Xiaqing watched as he waved his hand towards the teacup on the table, and miraculously, the cup flew through the air and landed steadily in his hand. Was this telekinesis? Xiaqing stared, fixed on Wang Jiqiang. The other man hesitated, as if realizing that he had unintentionally done something incredible. Wang Jiqiang looked at Lan Shi, seeking her approval, and her calmness seemed to put him at ease. He weakly smiled at Xiaqing. "President Xia, Prince Consort, as you can see, we Mui star people are actually different from your Earthlings. We possess certain unique abilities. He awkwardly scratched his head. Compared to the princess and the others, I don't really have any special abilities. I can only do telekinesis. At first, this ability was of no use when I arrived on Earth. But ever since I started working in the company, I discovered the benefits of this power. I can easily serve tea and water at any large-scale meeting with a simple wave of my hand, improving efficiency and gaining the appreciation of my superiors. Step by step, I made my way up in the company. I usually control it well, only using it when nobody is around, even my wife doesn't know. Xiaqing could have dismissed what he had just witnessed as an illusion, but Wang Jiqiang seemed to have given up the pretense. He finished his tea, then waved his hand at the cup, causing it to automatically return to its original position on the table. As the conversation progressed, Wang Jiqiang seemed to recall something, and his pale face, which was just moments ago, suddenly regained its color. Speaking of which, my wife is also a genuine Earthling, just like you, Mr. Xia. So, I fully support the union between Mui Star and Earth. We are pioneers in this practice, and in the future, we can be considered a harmonious intergalactic family. If you have any questions or don't understand something, feel free to discuss it with me. I am particularly knowledgeable about the intricacies of interstellar marriage and can impart my wisdom to you almost free of charge. Almost free of charge? Xiaqing raised an eyebrow. Wang Jiqiang chuckled awkwardly and said, it's just a figure of speech. I would charge a fee. Xiaqing furrowed his brow, still trying to process everything, when Lan Shi enthusiastically chimed in, we Mui star people are really helpful. When I first arrived on Earth, it was Wang Jiqiang who took care of me. He not only escorted me to the police station but also helped me with my identification documents. Thanks to him, I was able to secure a new job here. I even borrowed around 18,000 from him, and he wrote off one digit, so I only had to repay 20,000. The more Lan Shi spoke, the more embarrassed Wang Jiqiang became. Well, Mr. Xia, you can't blame me entirely. It's mainly because Earth is so competitive, and I fell into the trap of its evil consumerism. I'm just financially strained. However, at that moment, Xiaqing couldn't care less about Wang Jiqiang's financial troubles. He was completely absorbed in astonishment. Before coming here, he had believed that all of this was a scheme concocted by Lan Shi to manipulate him. But now, he was beginning to realize the terrifying truth. Could it be real? Was this really a gathering of extraterrestrial compatriots? Although it was not surprising for strange things to happen around Lan Shi, considering she was a woman who confounded algorithms and defied predictability, this situation seemed a little too far-fetched. Are your identification documents and resume all fake? Lan Shi looked somewhat embarrassed, her eyes darting around. But soon, she cleared her throat and confidently said, as a princess, shouldn't I possess these Earth certificates? After all, I have the same qualifications as required by these certificates. I just didn't take the exams. For convenience, I obtained these certificates. So, even though they're fake, you can consider them real. Judging a person's abilities shouldn't solely rely on whether their certificates are genuine. Xiaqing remained silent, thinking that it sounded like saying, even though I dropped out of high school, my abilities are on par with those who graduated from top universities like Tsinghua and Peking University. Thus, the heart-wrenching story of growing up in the mountains, losing both parents, and overcoming adversity to acquire numerous certificates, all of it was fake? Unfortunately, Xiaqing didn't have time to sort out his thoughts because Wang Jiqiang quickly grabbed Lan Shi's arm as if he had something to report. At the same time, he warmly pushed open the door to the private room, ushering Xiaqing inside. Inside the room, there were already around 10 young men and women, mostly men. As Xiaqing took a closer look, he was surprised to find a couple of good-looking young male internet celebrities among them. The situation was becoming more and more unbelievable. Almost as soon as Xiacheng entered the room, all eyes focused on him, scrutinizing him as if they were evaluating merchandise, and then they began discussing him as if they were selecting goods. His height is decent, and he has some degree of attractiveness. He can't be considered particularly ordinary or mundane. If it weren't for my early marriage, would the princess choose him? We're on a similar level. Hey, what's your background? Which city in Mui Star are you from? How many people are there in your family? What's your educational background? Do you have any special abilities? Xiacheng composed himself and stared at the young man who asked the question, and what special ability do you have? Me? My special ability is to temporarily freeze time on an object, like this. As he spoke, he casually knocked over a cup of tea, and then with a gentle flick of his finger, the teacup remained suspended in midair, along with the spilled tea. Inspired by his example, the other young people began to show off their own abilities. I can generate electricity. With these words, sparks of electricity appeared in his hands. He smirked confidently and said, "So when many Earth girls see me, they feel electrified and can't help but fall in love with me. I can turn invisible." The person in front said, and indeed, the person disappeared, leaving only floating clothes behind. As for me, I can control a small patch of clouds to make it rain. Hee hee, how fascinating. The speaker pointed to another person beside him and said, he can manipulate electronic devices and magnetic fields. Following the sound, Xiacheng was astonished to find that the person speaking was none other than the mentally challenged villagers he had encountered at the amusement park. So, if he followed this train of thought, the inexplicable events at the amusement park seemed to have an explanation. Why there was a cloud that rained only when Lan Shi was around, and why Xiacheng's phone and other electronic devices couldn't function. As much as Xiacheng didn't want to believe it, seeing was believing. The people in the private room, almost without exception, possessed extraordinary abilities, and most of them proudly demonstrated their skills. One young male internet celebrity, clearly harboring hostility towards Xiacheng, said, "You've asked us all these questions, why don't you introduce yourself? What abilities do you have? Speak up and let us hear." As he said this, a few arrogant individuals chimed in, "That's right. Let's see what ability you have that captured our princess. Unless you can make us all impressed and convinced, don't even think about holding on to the position of prince consort." The atmosphere intensified, and all eyes focused on Xiacheng. Finally, Xiacheng had a slight realization that Lan Shi might indeed be a princess. It seemed there were quite a few people in Mui Star vying to become the prince consort. Fortunately, Xiacheng was accustomed to such situations. In the business world, due to his youthful appearance, he had been questioned by many partners. In such moments, the best course of action wasn't to show fear or desperately explain but to succinctly shut everyone up with a single sentence. That's what Xiacheng thought, and that's what he did. He calmly surveyed the room. I have the ability to create cash. Cash as in banknotes. The entire room fell silent. The Mui Star people who had just been defiant now wore expressions of defeat or reluctant admiration. I never expected it to be the ability to create cash. Now I understand. This ability is absolutely top-notch on Earth. I lost. I was just too loud earlier. Call me brother whenever there's a chance to make money. From now on, you'll be my only brother. It seemed that the ability to make money was extremely useful throughout the entire universe. The hostile atmosphere that was present before completely disappeared, and Xiacheng was warmly surrounded by the Mui Star people. After a moment, Lan Shi and Wang Jiqiang entered the room and were surprised to see that Xiacheng had already formed a bond with this group of young Mui Star people. These young people are quite difficult to deal with. Xia, you're truly amazing. They must have sensed your unique charm. Xia didn't know if these people had felt his charm, but the scent of the Chinese yuan on him must have captivated everyone present. However, now was not the time to get closer to the other party. Xia pursed his lips and pulled Lanshi, leading her outside the private room. CHCK for US to rise on no/v/l/bin. C0M. Are you really a princess? From another planet? Xia had never imagined that one day he would ask such an absurd question, but what was even more absurd was that Lanshi nodded calmly and said, "Yes, didn't I tell you earlier? Are all the people attending today's gathering from other planets?" Lanshi nodded again. Besides them, are there other extraterrestrial beings in Rong City? Of course. Lanshi pondered for a moment and pursed her lips. Dongying, whom you met before, is my cousin. Xia couldn't help but widen his eyes as he recalled his encounter with Dongying, where he couldn't control his mouth and his legs seemed to lose their will. So, what is her special ability? Her words can give people psychological suggestions, so as long as you hear her say something in person, you will follow the meaning of her words in a variable period of time. Lanshi seemed unhappy. Anyway, she has always been my arch-nemesis, so she's not invited to this gathering. Did Lanshi really think that seeing a doctor could solve the problem when she confidently claimed she didn't need to? Xia was speechless. He had never expected that there would be such high-profile extraterrestrial beings around him. Have you ever been violated by someone before? Xia carefully chose his words. When you mentioned sleeping earlier, did it mean that on your planet, there is a special openness or a need to sleep with others to reproduce? Sleeping is just sleeping. What does it have to do with reproduction? Xia furrowed his brows, and his emotions seemed unable to relax. So, when the Mui star people sleep, it's purely for physical pleasure? Aren't you afraid of other issues arising? Lanshi couldn't help but question his soul. Everyone sleeps together, each in their own space. What problems can arise? At most, if someone has bad sleeping habits, it might affect the other person's sleep quality. As for sleeping, of course, it's for the pleasure of the body. Because for us, eating and sleeping are two important means of restoring energy. Only when we have enough sleep can our bodies feel comfortable. Isn't it the same for you humans? This question clearly left Xia bewildered. He remained dumbfounded for a while, staring at Lanshi, until he seemed to discern something extraordinary from her innocent gaze. Lanshi noticed his slight frown and tentatively asked, "So, when you say sleep, do you mean simply lying on a bed and covering oneself with a blanket?" Lanshi shook her head. If it's too hot, there's no need for a blanket, and sometimes a bed isn't necessary either. Like the time when Xie Yunfei and I slept together, we slept in a car. Xia expression was explosive. So, when you invite me to sleep, it's actually just sleeping? Of course! Unfortunately, you stubbornly refused to sleep with me. That time in the countryside, you went to sleep because you wouldn't let me sleep with you. I had to force myself to keep my eyes open all night. What about those sleeping positions you claim to be proficient in? Lying flat and sleeping on the side. What other sleeping positions are there? I sleep like this every day, I've mastered it. Don't you know how? Lanshi was puzzled. Why was Xia still holding on to this matter and seemed to care so much? So she immediately assured him, "Rest assured, even though I have much greater strength and a more esteemed position than you, I'm not the type to dominate others through force. I will definitely respect you, so if we don't sleep together, we won't. In the future, we can sleep in separate rooms." This should have been good news that would put Xiaqing at ease, but when he heard it, he clearly couldn't muster any happiness. Observing Xiaqing's complex and hesitant expression, Lan Shi found it very strange. What's wrong now? Lan Shi patiently waited for Xiaqing to speak, but his face became increasingly awkward. After a moment, as if unable to bear it any longer, he finally gritted his teeth and said, "If our relationship continues to develop, what's the point of sleeping in separate rooms?" Couples can sleep together, of course. Xiaqing coughed, his voice sounding somewhat unnatural. For those who haven't confirmed being in a couple, of course, they can't just sleep together casually. But for couples, it doesn't matter. If we get married in the future, we'll have to sleep together every day. Well, of course. Lan Shi sincerely exclaimed with excitement. On our planet, eating and sleeping are our favorite things. I really love sleeping. Even with this agreement, Xiaqing still seemed uncomfortable. There's another important correction regarding sleeping. The sleeping that Earthlings talk about sometimes isn't the same kind of sleeping you have in mind. The sleeping positions that Earthlings talk about are not what you understand. What kind of positions are they then? Do you know? Have you tried them out? If you're skilled, you can teach me. I'm a fast learner. Faced with Lan Shi's question, Xiaqing only averted his gaze slightly, his face turning red. I haven't actually tried them specifically, but I'm also a fast learner, and these things require both people to practice together. We'll talk about it later. I see. Lan Shi nodded. Then let's practice when we get back from the gathering. Sleeping was one of Lan Shi's favorite activities to replenish her energy. She had heard that there were differences between Earthlings and Mui star people in terms of sleeping and sleeping positions, which instantly ignited her passion for learning. She was eager to study new techniques, ready to roll up her sleeves and delve into it. However, her proactive attitude towards learning was once again halted by Xiaqing's intervention. No, you can't. Why not? You said I could sleep with you. It's daytime now, Xiaqing replied, glancing at the blue sky outside with an awkward expression. Usually, it's at night. Oh, Lan Shi understood this kind of situation. On Mui Star, some of their people's abilities had certain restrictions, such as being usable only on rainy days or when they were feeling happy. So, you can't sleep during the day, right? Only at night? No. I can sleep during the day and night, but it's just that during the day, it feels too decadent, Xiaqing said, his neck inexplicably turning red even though the weather wasn't particularly hot. Let's save it for later, for the nights to come. Nighttime is nighttime. Lan Shi checked the time and said, "Okay, I'll set an alarm. Now, let's go in and entertain my fellow clansmen." Just as Lan Shi turned to push open the door and walk into the private room, Xiaqing once again stopped her. Wait. Xiaqing looked conflicted, as if there was a battle within him. I have another question. Lan Shi gestured for him to speak. After staring at Lan Shi for a while and hesitating, Xiaqing finally spoke with some discomfort. I understand that extraterrestrials can take on various forms, and I don't mind that. After all, you can appear just like humans, and I'm not fixated on knowing your true form. Xiaqing seemed to struggle with his words, but then he blurted out as if he had made up his mind. But considering the future, I want to be mentally prepared. If we have children in the future, will they have 8 legs or 4 legs? Xiaqing finished asking, and quickly added, of course, I'm just asking, you don't have to have children if you don't want to, or maybe interspecies reproduction is not possible. Isn't an octopus the one with 8 legs? What kind of preposterous question was this? Our offspring will definitely have 2 legs. Hearing about the 2 legs, Xiaqing seemed to heave a huge sigh of relief, but then, as if recalling something, he continued carefully, "What about fur? Will there be a lot?" "There will be fur, but only growing in the right places, like the hair on the head. We Mui star people look like this originally." Lan Shi pointed at herself. "This is my true form, with 2 legs." "This is your true form?" "Yes." At this point, Xiaqing finally seemed to relax completely. "Then there's no problem. I have no more questions. We can take everything else slowly." Lan Shi actually still wanted to explain about the breeding incubators on Mui Star, but unfortunately the noisy commotion coming from outside Jinlin Clubhouse soon deprived her of the opportunity. "Princess, how could you take a husband without notifying us?" "Princess, this son-in-law of yours, he must pass our inspection first. Old Zhang here will examine him for you." Following the voices, weren't these exactly those entrepreneurs, shareholders and industry leaders who had blended in as Earthling tycoons? These middle-aged men had all originally been smiling, but upon seeing Xiaqing next to Lan Shi, they froze in place, as if jammed. Xiaqing was equally embarrassed inside. He still remembered that it wasn't long ago when he had angrily denounced these business big shots as perverts. He didn't expect to meet them again in this way. Although it was hard to relate, but by analogy, these people were like Lan Shi's fellow townsmen, and elders at that. No matter what, he should be more polite and courteous. Xiaqing coughed and was about to cordially say a few polite words to showcase friendliness, but he saw President Lin's eyeballs roll as he seemed to make up his mind. Staring deeply at Lan Shi, he shouted loudly with the air of a martyr walking to his death. "Yes, we booked another KTV session, Princess. We are indeed lacking in virtue and propriety for our age and still playing around like youngsters, enjoying role-playing games where we spend money to hire people to act as princesses and wait on us hand and foot. But it was consensual, just some special fetishes that aren't against the law. Can perverts not exist? Yes. We were perverts when young, and now we are old perverts." After President Lin's impassioned speech, he looked at Lan Shi with eyes that said he was willing to jump into boiling water for her, voluntarily taking on the label of pervert. Although he didn't say anything outright, even Xiaqing could sense President Lin's sacrifice through his gaze, all to protect Princess Lan Shi's identity from exposure. President Lin had pushed aside an important shareholders' meeting to come today. He really cared about Lan Shi. He didn't expect to run into Xiaqing here again. No matter what, today was the joyous occasion of the princess introducing her husband. Her identity must not be revealed at all costs, otherwise the Mui Star people's years of concealment on Earth would come to naught. Faced with the big enemy before him, President Lin couldn't come up with anything better to say at the moment. But admitting he was a pervert was still better than acknowledging he was an alien and exposing the princess's identity. And so, President Lin took the lead and voluntarily took on the label of pervert. At worst, he would suffer another tongue lashing from this earthling brat Xiaqing, or the other party would call the police and force him to send lawyers to handle it. Or this brat would expose him in the media and news. Although it might affect his reputation somewhat, if he could preserve the princess's identity, then he would become a hero of Mui Star. President Lin was filled with a sense of self-sacrifice for the greater good. He had been lying low on Earth for many years. It was time to weather the coming storm. Yet the storm President Lin envisioned did not arrive. What came was an even more violent storm than he could have imagined. Instead of the furious expression from last time, Xiaqing looked extremely calm. He merely raised his eyelids slightly, and the look in his eyes as he gazed at President Lin was filled with complex emotions. Then he smiled. Things were not going right. President Lin's alarm bells rang violently, but before he could make heads or tails of it, he heard Xiaqing say calmly, "President Lin, pleased to meet you. I have always greatly admired your investment foresight. Up to TED chapters nnvelben.com. Xiaqing said flatly, I am the husband. He glanced at Lan Shi and succinctly supplemented, currently dating your princess. President Lin gaped, completely unexpected this turn of events. It was then that Wang Jiqiang, who had earlier sensed something amiss and left to take an incoming wife call, finally showed up fashionably late. President Lin looked towards Wang Jiqiang pleadingly. Wang Jiqiang didn't know about the earlier happenings. He smiled obsequiously at Xiaqing and Lan Shi, then turned to President Lin. President Lin, it looks like with your outstanding judgment, you recognized our son-in-law at first glance. Indeed, our remarkable and extraordinary son-in-law with his unique temperament and elegant demeanor can be discerned by anyone with eyes to have that innate nobility and grace befitting his status, a perfect match for a princess. Wang Jiqiang clearly wasn't cognizant of the situation. Still smiling, he called to President Zhang behind President Lin. President Zhang, didn't you say you wanted to examine our son-in-law? Go on then, hurry and assess him. Although Xiaqing was innocent and had nothing to hide from Lan Shi, hearing about an assessment, his body tensed up nevertheless. After all, these were aliens from the same planet as Lan Shi, who knew what kind of assessment methods they had and whether he could pass. But before Wang Jiqiang had even finished speaking, President Zhang behind President Lin already stepped forward, an awkward look on his face. Just when Xiaqing steeled himself for the examination, President Zhang casually looked Xiaqing up and down, then immediately reported 3 numbers. 188, 69, 19. After reporting them, he nodded at Wang Jiqiang, excellent. He passes. Xiaqing was confused, not comprehending at all. On the other hand, Wang Jiqiang looked at Xiaqing in astonishment. He glanced at Xiaqing's lower body. President Xia, such an outstanding 19 even when flaccid. Truly excellent. He turned to look at Lan Shi. Princess, you're fortunate. Congratulations, Princess. Happy for you, Princess. At this point, even Xiaqing understood what those numbers represented. Wang Jiqiang smiled as he explained, President Xia, what you don't know is that the capable ones basically all remain on the home planet. Us drifters roaming the cosmos and Earth naturally have more useless abilities. That's why we couldn't make a name for ourselves back home and came out here to work. Take our princess for example. She belongs to a very popular type back on Mui Star, top of her class in combat and close quarters battles, but she doesn't care for theoretical classes like Emotional Studies 101, which she didn't even take. So she tends to be somewhat oblivious and confused in emotional affairs. President Xia, I'm afraid expecting sweet talk from her would be impossible. As for me, I always came first in emotional studies, just that my physical abilities are non-existent. But coming to Earth, this top emotional studies ability of mine immediately allowed me to find a loving Earth wife. What I didn't expect was that while our abilities don't amount to much back on Mui Star, causing us drifters on Earth to be looked down on, these very abilities allowed us to find our niche here, and through hard work become leading figures in various industries and fields here. So Earth has become like a second home planet to us. Here we found a sense of home. So rest assured, we are different from the princess. The princess's goal is to conquer Earth and then complete her training before returning to our home planet, but our goal is to live in peace and harmony here on Earth. Wang Jiqiang was speaking without thinking, but Xiaqing was listening intently. He frowned slightly. Conquer Earth? Return to the home planet? Yes, that is the princess's responsibility. In order to better conquer Earth, our experts from Mui Star even compiled a guide to conquering Earthlings for the princess. She has been studying it diligently. Wang Jiqiang wouldn't have said anything, but as soon as he did, Xiaqing understood. So this guide to conquering Earthlings was what Lan Shi had called the guide her family left for her? Xiaqing said solemnly, where is that guide? Wang Jiqiang was still grinning before, but when he saw Xia Cheng's expression, he immediately realized he had said the wrong thing. He stammered, It's with the princess herself. Why don't you ask her for it next time? Haha, it's just a guidebook, don't worry too much about it, I have to text my wife back. After saying that, Wang Jiqiang slipped away. But how could Xia Cheng not be concerned? So long she was always talking about conquering him, and after that she would return to her home planet? But there were more pressing issues right now. Because of the rumors spread by Xia Jing, he and Lan Shi were currently in the spotlight. After the group date, Xia Cheng had originally planned to drive Lan Shi back to the employee dormitory, but when they were 3 intersections away, Lan Shi received a text from Liang Di. Lan Shi, don't go back to the dorm yet. There are some suspicious-looking people who seem like reporters with cameras waiting downstairs. Although he knew Lan Shi had physical strength no ordinary person could have, Xia Cheng's first instinct was still to worry about her safety rather than others. She wasn't an autistic patient, that was good, but she was still an alien princess who didn't understand the dangers on Earth with her simple mindset. So keeping her by his side was the most reassuring thing to do. Oblivious to what the Earthlings around her were thinking, Lan Shi happily followed Xia Cheng back to his villa. The neighborhood was more spacious and private than the employee dormitory. Xia Cheng believed he had no ulterior motives. After all, Lan Shi was a princess, how could he let her stay in an employee dormitory? Still, he couldn't help blushing, remembering how Lan Shi had earnestly set an alarm. His expression was also somewhat unnatural and slightly nervous. Self-control. Xia Cheng believed he possessed this trait. But thinking that the person sitting next to him in the car was actually a princess made his blood rush faster in excitement and disbelief that was difficult to calm. Oblivious to the inner thoughts of the Earthlings around her, Lan Shi was thirsty and simply murmured it. Xia Cheng immediately stopped what he was doing and went into the kitchen to heat up some milk for her. But just after Xia Cheng finished heating the milk and was about to bring it out, a miserable scream came from the living room. Help! Xia Cheng rushed out of the kitchen almost instantly, only to see Lan Shi rushing towards him in panic with a pitiful expression. Without giving Xia Cheng any time to react, she leapt onto him like a koala bear. Caught off guard, the freshly heated milk in Xia Cheng's hands also met with disaster, spilling all over both their chests. Yet everything in the living room was normal. As Xia Cheng held Lan Shi, he looked around but saw nothing amiss except for the little cat he had taken in meowing. Of course Xia Cheng didn't think anything of it, but Lan Shi was scared to death. Why was that cat still here? Lan Shi cried out in fear, Cat, make it go away. Cats are so scary. Only then did Xia Cheng belatedly realize, You're afraid of cats? Lan Shi nodded vigorously. Cats are the mortal enemies of us Mui star people. Xia Cheng was taken aback. While he couldn't understand, he knew every planet's creatures had their own taboos. Cats were furry and cute to Earthlings but were perhaps very dangerous to Lan Shi. First he carried Lan Shi to a guest room before going downstairs to put the cat in another room. Fortunately he hadn't given this cat to Lan Shi earlier. Otherwise she wouldn't have just been unhappy, she might have even seen it as a declaration of war. Alone in the guest room, Lan Shi was scared out of her wits. But not long after, Xia Cheng dealt with the cat and knocked on her door. He brought Lan Shi a set of clean pajamas and a towel, along with a freshly heated cup of milk. You're covered in spilled milk. Take a shower first. After putting down the milk, he was about to leave, but Lan Shi was still frightened and called out to Xia Cheng. What about you? Xia Cheng, where are you going? Can you stay in the room with me? Xia Cheng was taken aback, then his ears turned slightly red. That's not appropriate. I can't stay in your room while you shower. That wouldn't be proper, moreover my clothes are stained with spilled milk too, so I need to take a shower as well. Showering of course required taking off clothes. You're about to take off your clothes to shower yourself, and you're telling me to take off my clothes to shower too. And it's just the two of us alone together in this villa. Wasn't this exactly the kind of sly tactic used by the unscrupulous earthling Xie had warned her about before? Isn't a situation like this exactly what you called having ulterior motives? You said that when encountering people like this, it's perfectly reasonable to call the police or give them a beating. Hearing Lan Shi's words, Xie finally realized. He hesitated for a moment, clearly wanting to explain but also couldn't help laughing. So you want to give me a beating? Lan Shi was conflicted but soon made up her mind. I guess not. She mumbled, don't want to hit you. She glanced at Xie again, then nervously averted her gaze, though she didn't know what she was nervous about. In a low, displeased voice she added. It feels like I can't bear to hit you, don't want to hit you. I'd be unhappy if I hit you. Wang Jiqian said Lan Shi had never taken any emotional intelligence courses, so her emotions were ignorant and insensitive. One couldn't expect to hear sweet nothings from Lan Shi's mouth, but to Xie this was perhaps the most genuine, heartfelt confession he had ever received in his life. When he learned that Lan Shi conquering him involved some guide to conquering Earthlings, Xie had minded. And when he learned Lan Shi hadn't even taken any emotional intelligence courses, he felt somewhat disappointed. His pride prevented him from asking further, afraid of getting an answer he didn't want to hear. Lan Shi, as an alien princess, could she truly understand an Earthling's affection? Yet in this moment, Xie finally realized these worries were completely unnecessary. Lan Shi hadn't taken any emotional intelligence courses, but that didn't mean she was unable to perceive emotions. Xie felt she had no need for a guidebook, because she had already successfully self-taught herself. Without a doubt, he was in love with Lan Shi, just as Lan Shi was in love with him. Lan Shi finished her shower, drank some hot milk, and felt comfortable and lazy all over. Then her set alarm clock rang. It was time to learn the methods and postures of sleeping from Xie as the people on Earth do. Unfortunately, when Lan Shi rushed to find Xie excitedly, the other party solemnly handed her a high school physiology textbook. Xie had also just taken a shower and was still wearing a bathrobe. His hair was fluffy and his cheeks were slightly flushed, but his tone was serious and unquestionable. You need to study this book thoroughly from beginning to end first. Lan Shi was very disappointed. Can't you teach me directly? Doesn't practice make perfect? Xie looked a little awkward, and the redness on his face seemed to be more noticeable. Your foundation is too poor. At least lay some theoretical foundation first, otherwise one-on-one teaching won't work either. Also, one-on-one teaching is not possible tonight because I have work to do. What work? Dealing with the previous rumors about you and me, Xie answered. And that was indeed his plan. Lan Shi's identity was special. Now was not the time for too much media exposure and attention. He had to deal with it as soon as possible. Ordinary legal proceedings took quite some time. By the time he was done suing and processing everything, it would be at least half a year later at the earliest. If some nosy media kept eyeing Lan Shi during that time. Xie didn't dare to think further. He turned on his computer and searched using the keyword Lan Shi. His legal team was quite efficient. Some small online media accounts that were just trying to stir things up had already deleted their reposts. What remained were those who took Xie money but stubbornly refused to delete. Xie was going to check the current popularity and public opinion trends but was shocked after opening those rumor-mongering posts. Public opinion had completely turned. I know this girl. I've even gone out to play with her. Seeing this, I can't help but speak up to defend her. It's not possible for any man to forcibly do anything to her, because ordinary men simply can't overpower her. So stop spreading ridiculous rumors. It's more likely that she forcibly took advantage of the man. The post was from an anonymous account. Originally, it did not draw much attention until Xie Jing's paid trolls tried to stamp out such nonconformist speech. Instead of shutting the original poster up, it triggered their spite and defiance. Soon, they uploaded a clip from a car's surveillance camera. Xie Jing clicked open the video and found Lan Shi walking casually and calmly to the front of the car. She then easily punched and sent flying several youths on motorcycles who looked like hooligans. Further down, the poster also presented medical records as proof that the scene in the video was not staged. These people were all beaten up by her. This time I'm truly outraged. Sometimes as men, we are also very helpless and pitiful. You women are always chattering about girls help girls. Well, I also want to serve justice today. Boys help boys. Let me say something fair for Xie Jing. There's simply no way that Xie Jing forcibly did anything to her as claimed in the news. Look at the video and judge for yourselves with a clear conscience. She's got the power of a god. No way an average Xie Jing could overpower her. Rumors are too damaging. They can effortlessly ruin someone. The one presenting evidence and arguing passionately was, of course, Wei Yijuan. After his awkward loyalty test experience last time, he did receive a red envelope from Wang Yan, but it was far from enough to cover the medical expenses of the extras. Their injuries were much more severe than he had imagined. In the end, not only did Wei Yijuan suffer, but he also lost money paying the medical bills on top of it all. After the extras recovered, they spread rumors everywhere. Through the game of telephone, the story became distorted. Eventually, no one knew how, but it turned into Wei Yijuan offended some famous underworld enforcer. Anyone around him would get caught in the crossfire and suffer vicious beatdowns. At first, Wei Yijuan scoffed at it, but soon the rumors grew fiercer. For safety reasons, no one dared to hire him for acting or extra gigs anymore. Destitute Wei Yijuan happened to see the news about Xie Jing and Lan Shi when he was bored and surfing the web at home. It's this Lan Shi. It was just a rumor. And it made him end up like this. At that moment, Wei Yijuan instantly put himself in Xie Jing's shoes. Isn't this just an innocent, pitiful man, as vulnerable as himself, about to be dragged into the abyss by a dark rumor? Wei Yijuan was immediately filled with a sense of justice. At the same time, he finally thought of a way to turn his situation around. The Xie Jing and Lan Shi incident was so hot right now. Why not take this opportunity to stand up and clarify things for Xie Jing? It would establish his image as someone who stands up for justice. He could also ride the hype wave for some exposure. When various media outlets come knocking for interviews, he could clarify what really happened with his own incident back then. It would refresh his public image, clear up the damaging rumors affecting his job prospects, and kill two birds with one stone. Simply perfect. Before this video and medical record exposure, public opinion was almost entirely condemnatory of Xie Jing as an immoral perpetrator. But after their release, the tone began to shift. Holy CR*P. Is this a human or a weapon? She's a god. Seeing the video, I thought it was some silly CGI short skit. But after the medical records, the silence is deafening. With strength like that, I suspect the man couldn't forcibly assault her even if he tried. But she could easily force herself onto any man. I suspect Xie Jing is the real victim here, cruelly ravaged and taken advantage of. UFC and other fight promotions need to recruit this talent ASAP. The previously one-sided barrage of attacks against Xie Jing mysteriously dissipated into a comedic atmosphere instead. Among them were also clarifications from Xia Cheng's employees. This girl is new at our company. She really is very strong. At the new employee team building head flicking game earlier, she flicked our boss Xia into getting hospitalized for a concussion. She's very smart and did not get in through any preferential policies. Her resume is outstanding and she has all sorts of certifications. Her data analysis skills are terrifying, on par with computers. To Xia Cheng's surprise, under the corroboration of all the evidence and testimonies, what was originally imagined to be a public firestorm was somehow mysteriously quelled. But this video of her sending a man flying with one punch. Although he knew Lan Shi was strong, facing such a scene again, Xia Cheng still couldn't help sinking into contemplative silence. Just then, Lan Shi curiously leaned over to take a look too and revealed an astonished expression. "Oh? They even filmed that?" Xia Cheng glanced at her, still unable to restrain himself. "When did this happen?" "That time, when that man said I was sick." Lan Shi looked very angry. "I clearly hit those people to protect him. How could he be like that?" "So what exactly happened that time?" Since Xia Cheng asked, Lan Shi couldn't help spilling the beans and recounted every detail of the whole incident from beginning to end. She was still furious recalling it now. Wei Yijuan is a bad person. He set up the tent himself, took off his clothes, and asked me to take off a piece of clothing too, then invited me into the tent to stay together. I had to threaten him with force before he finally stopped pestering me. What kind of person is he? Xia Cheng finally pieced together the cause and effect but still clung to a thread of hope. He only scolded you as sick after that? Yeah. Ever since finding out Lan Shi was an alien, Xia Cheng naturally knew his previous conjectures about her were wrong. But he didn't expect he had been so preposterously off the mark. What weak, helpless victim. With Lan Shi, it would be lucky if she didn't end up as the perpetrator herself. He really couldn't let his guard down for even a moment, otherwise who knows what kind of outlaw this princess could become one day. Fortunately, he knew better than to push it, otherwise I would have definitely punched him. Lan Shi still seemed upset. She glanced at Xia Cheng and grumbled, "He's not like you, I wouldn't have gone easy on him." With just that one sentence, Xia Cheng didn't have any more thoughts. That's right, if it wasn't for Lan Shi's super powerful combat ability, who knows how long it would have taken to quell the rumors through legal means. Not to mention that dispelling rumors is always harder than spreading them. Taking advantage of the event's peak attention to eliminate the negative impact, what could be better than this? Xia Cheng contacted the lawyers to coordinate the follow-up evidence collection and cleanup work, then prepared to devote himself wholeheartedly to the launch of the weather system. Today, he received notice that his software copyright application was approved. The weather software he had painstakingly developed was finally nearing its ultimate launch. The countdown could begin. And it was also time to start closing the net. Xie Jing had been sleeping poorly recently, agitated. Step by step, he began to encircle Xia Cheng. As expected, with the shocking spread of Lan Shi's eye-catching photos, plus the oil-pouring vinegar-stirring chaos written by internet water armies, Xia Cheng's scandal fermented at lightning speed. Although Xia Cheng's team of lawyers immediately sprang into action, how could negative impacts be eliminated so quickly? The next morning when Xia Jing got up and routinely took out his phone to see what Xia Cheng had been scolded into online, he found that the tide had completely turned overnight. A no-name web drama actor called Wei Yijuan released a video showing Lan Shi effortlessly fighting several burly men. With all kinds of supporting evidence, he yelled hoarsely to defend Xia Cheng's innocence. That bizarre video, after being identified by multiple netizens, was indeed not an edit with special effects. It immediately attracted the attention of public opinion and shifted the direction of the whole event. After gaining attention, this little actor swiftly accepted media interviews. Departing thousands of miles from the topic, he directly switched from Xiaqing and Lan Shi's matter to society's stereotypes about men and the unreasonable presumption of guilt against men. He tearfully recounted the devastating blow rumors had dealt to his career previously. Relying on this, the little actor transformed overnight from an unknown bit player into a righteous spokesperson for men's issues. As a result, the actor gained nearly 100,000 new followers overnight and was already preparing to start live streaming and selling merchandise the next day. In Xie Jing's original plan, he would first vilify Xie Cheng's image around gender relations as groundwork, then besmirch his reputation. Next, after Xie Cheng finally obtained the weather software developed by Chenxin, Xie Jing would make some tweaks before sneakily launching it ahead of schedule. That way, not only would he seize the first-mover advantage, even if Xie Cheng came to defend his rights afterwards, with his then weakened public opinion base, there likely wouldn't be many people who believed and supported him anyway. Xie Jing had spent quite a lot hiring internet armies to manufacture momentum this time. For things to suddenly change like this now was beyond his expectations. However, although resentful, the key was still in seizing the first launch of the weather software. Today was his day to close the net on Xie Cheng. Xie Jing felt rather proud and couldn't help glancing at his watch again. The appointed time to meet Wang Yan was approaching. Right on time. Half an hour later, Wang Yan arrived as promised, bringing a portable hard drive that made Xie Jing breathe a sigh of relief. He felt a sense of finality. So this contains all the source code for the weather software? Wang Yan nodded. Yes. She looked at Xie Jing. So President Xie must remember what you previously promised me. I took such a big risk to help you steal the source code from Chenxin. You were the one who told me to do it. Usually Wang Yan wasn't this polite and reserved with him. Although surprised, Xie Jing also felt it made sense. After all, now that he had obtained the source code, it was like grasping the password to future wealth. Of course Wang Yan would be so respectful of him now. It showed the girl had insight. But Xie Jing hadn't noticed her being so long-winded before. At such a young age it seemed her memory wasn't that good. She had looked quite smart previously, yet kept repeatedly confirming the treatment and promises Xie Jing had made to her after letting her steal the source code. Xie Jing endured and answered her questions. Then she started asking how Xie Jing would use the source code. Considering her admirable efforts this time, Xie Jing still answered some questions. But he soon grew impatient and resorted to cajoling and deceiving her. You don't need to worry about these things. Pursuing a career is a man's business. As a girl, it's better to pursue stable happiness. After I launch this software and Xie Jing is struggling desperately, you should go get some SPA treatments, put on makeup, buy new clothes, then it'll be time to appear by Xie Jing's side to comfort him. Just being a pretty girl is good enough. Elated, Xie Jing couldn't help but speak his mind. Look at you working so hard for Xie Jing, what good could come of it? He doesn't even glance your way. Wang Yan didn't speak, only smiled meaningfully at him. The smile was very meaningful, but immersed in the ecstasy of obtaining the source code, Xie Jing was utterly oblivious. By the time he realized the source code Wang Yan had given him on the portable drive was only gibberish, and public security officers had arrived at the company's door to investigate and collect evidence, it was already too late. We received a report with audio evidence suggesting you are suspected of stealing trade secrets from another company. Please come back with us to assist in the investigation. Xie Jing was dumbfounded. He had been calling Wang Yan, on the verge of blowing up to interrogate her about why the portable hard drive only contained gibberish. The previously unanswered call finally connected after the public security officers arrived. Lowering his voice, Xie Jing asked almost wretchedly, "The police are here, what's going on? What you gave me wasn't what I wanted either." Even now, Xie Jing finally sensed something amiss. He sinisterly whispered, "Don't forget, you're the one who gave me the stuff. We're grasshoppers on the same boat." But unlike Xie Jing's loss of composure, Wang Yan's voice remained extremely calm on the other end of the phone. President Xia, there's one thing I may need to remind you, we were never grasshoppers on the same boat. Together with her problematic hard drive, even a fool could guess what was going on from Wang Yan's words. Xie Jing was practically wild-eyed with fury. You set me up for Xie Cheng? No wonder you asked so much, so you were trying to trap me and record our conversation. You want to be his dog that badly? Once he succeeds he'll have Lan Shi by his side, do you really think he'll even glance your way? He's just using you. For Xie Cheng? Wang Yan actually laughed openly for the first time. Why does it have to be for Xie Cheng? Isn't stealing company secrets a major criminal violation? Why would I, a young woman with good grades and looks and a bright future, take such risks to violate the law and commit a crime for a single man like Xie Cheng that would ruin my prospects? I really like Xie Cheng, I was unhappy he didn't like me back. But that feeling will pass, I'll get over it. But if I had really stolen trade secrets, that criminal record would follow me for life. Wang Yan adjusted her emotions, articulating fluently, I'm not collaborating with you simply for my own sake. Whether he looks my way more or less right now isn't what I care most about. What I care most about is that after this matter, I'll get the promotion and raise he promised, and my dream of leading an independent team to build a new data analysis model will also be achieved. Besides, compared to you, Xie Cheng has better professional and management skills. The software's future prospects are completely different depending on whether it launches under him or you. A good bird chooses a tree to nest in, of course I would choose to support him. Girls aren't as foolish as you think, nor as short-sighted. On the contrary, aren't you men always overestimating your own importance, mistakenly believing that a bit of affection could sway every girl's life decisions? Lost love can be found again, missed opportunities for career takeoff and making money may be gone for life. Uncle Xia, you still ought to reflect and mend your ways. Having said her piece, Wang Yan swiftly hung up, leaving Xie Jing to gape in dismay at the irredeemable conclusion before him. At this moment, Xie Jing finally had a feeling that the greater trends had passed. Xie Cheng received the news at the first moment that Xie Jing had been taken away by the public security authorities for investigation. A few days ago, Wang Yan had found him and told him about Xie Jing's plan. Although Xie Cheng was also psychologically prepared for this, he did not expect that Xie Jing would actually want to take advantage of Wang Yan. I asked him that since he wanted me to come, other eyeliners should not interfere, and he had to tell me who the other eyeliners were, so that I would not hurt his own people by mistake. Xie Cheng still remembered that Wang Yan was calm, methodical, and then casually threw out a list. This is the list of all Xie Jing's eyeliners in Xie Cheng's new company. It's just right that Xie Cheng's personnel can have some changes and updates. Wang Yan's work ability had always been good, but this time her calmness and thunderous methods also made Xie Cheng look at her with new eyes. Xie Cheng urgently convened an internal meeting of Xie Cheng's new company, and finally checked and eliminated all potential risk factors, and finally made the weather forecasting software system that he had been studying hard since he started his business officially launched as scheduled. Within 24 hours after the launch, the number of downloads and uses of the software had exceeded 100,000 times, and the data was steadily climbing in an orderly manner. The phone's calls from cooperating parties and investors to Xie Cheng were also endless. Xie Cheng was almost unconsciously aware that he finally had a sense of accomplishment after enduring humiliation for many years. With Lan Shi's help in debugging, Xie Cheng further improved the weather software before going online. Therefore, today's weather forecasts are also much more accurate than during the trial run. The previous rumors about Xie Cheng and Lan Shi have now also been dealt with 7 or 8 points. Security and privacy have also been strengthened at the door of the employee dormitory, and Lan Shi can return to the dormitory. Although Xie Cheng naturally wanted to stay with his newly promoted princess girlfriend, the other party didn't learn much knowledge and was lazy, asking Xie Cheng to make an exception to teach her the corresponding sleeping postures first every day. Even with Xie Chang's self-control, he was afraid of staying by the riverside for too long and getting his feet wet. You should go back to the employee dormitory first. After thinking twice, Xie Chang made a decision. After all, you are still a company employee. Living with me directly will inevitably lead to some strange rumors again, which is unfair to you. Although Lan Shi liked her employee dormitory very much, Xie Chang's big villa was better after all, not to mention there was Xie Chang who could cook. Therefore, until she got into Xie Chang's car, Lan Shi was still very reluctant, and asked again and again, "The room facing south on the second floor, you promised to keep it for me. You can't give it to someone else." Xie Chang felt helpless and amused. Finally, he couldn't help but pinch Lan Shi's nose. "I know, my princess." New chapters will be fully updated at novl/bin.com. After getting a definite answer, Lan Shi sat down happily and behaved. Then she looked at the still clear and cloudless sky at the moment. It's going to rain heavily. Almost as soon as she finished speaking, the weather system software in Xie Chang's phone also gave a prompt for heavy rain. Halfway through the drive, as expected, the sky darkened suddenly shortly afterwards, and a heavy rain came as scheduled. So is predicting the weather also one of your abilities? Well. Lan Shi nodded. I'm a little more sensitive than Earth people to subtle changes in weather, such as changes in humidity and temperature in the air. I thought it was a useless ability at first, but it turned out not to be the case after I came to Earth. Just like the system you developed, it can now predict the weather in advance, and more accurately, so as to avoid many losses in the future. Lan Shi's eyes were bright. There was constant rain outside the car, but Xie Chang felt calm, peaceful and warm inside the car. Lan Shi just lay there on the passenger seat, watching the rain outside the window, then drew a planet on the fog that was gradually condensing on the window, and then drew the Earth next to it. She whispered to herself, "Xie Chang, unfortunately I didn't crash land on Earth earlier, otherwise could I have saved your parents?" Lan Shi didn't know how to pretend. All her words were very direct. Sometimes the things she asked were very childish and the suggestions she made were very unrealistic, but what she said always came from the heart. Perhaps there was no hypocrisy or deception in the culture of her planet at all. But in the Mui star civilization, death does not really disappear, but transforms into another form. Your father and mother may have become the first cherry blossom to bloom gorgeously in spring, or the sweetest watermelon in summer, the first fallen leaf in autumn, or the first snow in winter, or even the heavy rain in front of us now. They didn't leave, but existed in another way, surrounding you, loving you, and accompanying you forever and ever in another form. So don't be sad anymore in the future. Lan Shi's voice was soft but firm. I will accompany you too. There are no ifs in life, no possibility of traveling through time and space, nothing can be redone. Xie Chang's parents had been gone for many years, and he still couldn't truly let go. The young Xie Chang who lost his parents when he was young had secretly sworn in many lonely nights that he would definitely develop a weather forecasting system that could forecast the weather more accurately and comprehensively, as if only by doing so could he save his helpless past self in the face of his parents' accident and relieve the self-blame and sadness in his heart. However, at this moment, on the same day when this teenage dream finally came true, on the day when the accuracy of the weather software finally reached his goal, in a downpour that had always made Xie Chang irritable, as he looked at Lan Shi beside him, he suddenly felt that the stimulation finally reconciled with his teenage self at this moment. He finally did what he could do, and for the first time he was willing to face his parents' departure and no longer evade rainy weather. Perhaps Lan Shi was right at all. The universe is so big with an alien princess sitting next to him. Perhaps everything is possible. Who knows if the deceased loved ones are not accompanying us on the left and right in another way? Rather than cherishing the past, why not focus on the present? When they finally arrived downstairs at the dormitory building, Xie Chang stopped the car and took Lan Shi's hand, staring into her eyes. Lan Shi, I like you. Xiaqing heard himself open his mouth with a nervous but firm voice. To express this fondness, I want to kiss you and then hug you. Xiaqing leaned down. He felt the hot breath on Lanxi's face. He moved closer to her ear, gently hugged her. So this is our first kiss now. He kissed her. In this kiss, Xiaqing's rainy season in his heart finally ended as well. Recently, many things have happened. Xiaqing's new weather system was improved and officially launched, taking his career to a new level. Jie Jing was arrested for the crime of stealing trade secrets. Wang Yan walked the path of promotion and salary increase through her own efforts. Wei Yijuan suddenly became popular as a male role model. As for Lan Shi, I guarantee that the negative impact of previous rumors has basically eliminated. You can now go out freely again without the danger of your safety or privacy being infringed. Everything will return to the way you used to live. That was what Xiaqing said clearly, but Lan Shi did not think so. In recent days when she went out, she lined up properly, but was suddenly cut in line by two young men who looked like hooligans. Before Lan Shi could seriously admonish them that cutting in line would lose etiquette, they turned pale when they saw Lan Shi's face. They hurriedly resumed etiquette, muttering, "Lord of Boxing, spare me. Don't beat me, don't beat me, I'll line up immediately." Then they really went to line up at the end of queue. In any case, Lan Shi was very satisfied with her current status. Not long ago, Xiaqing gave his bank card to Lan Shi. Although they were not married, Lan Shi already had control over his income and finally owned her first premium card. Knowing that she had a premium card, her people of Mui Star were very supportive. Lan Shi received transfer reminders almost every day, so much so that due to too frequent large amount operations, she was interviewed by the bank. Lan Shi had to call a halt to these tributes. With money, the first thing Lan Shi did was to find several good restaurants and eat until she was full. After staying on Earth for a long time, Lan Shi was also more proficient in Earth's culture and hidden rules. Good food on Earth is not necessarily found in expensive restaurants. Some roadside shops are more authentic, cost-effective and tasty. I don't know why, after eating in several small restaurants in a row, Lan Shi unexpectedly became popular. Someone took a video of her eating 100 pig's trotters crazily. Thanks to her looks and eating prowess, Lan Shi somehow gained fame in the food vlog circle. The few small restaurants she appeared in were also popularized because of her and jumped into fame, becoming internet celebrity stores. Since then, she has been receiving endless restaurant invitations inviting her to eat for free unconditionally, as long as she shoots the whole eating process into videos and posts them online. For this reason, Lan Shi developed this new side business after work. Lan Shi was very satisfied with this. Because Diang Di said that to capture a man's heart, you can't stick with him all day long. Feelings are like flying a kite. You have to give the kite some freedom to fly high occasionally, as long as you firmly hold onto the kite string. What's more, the more a woman has her own self and her own wonderfulness, the more attractive she is. In short, if you ignore him, he will come on more strongly and take the initiative to find you. Lan Shi believed what Diang Di said must be reasonable, but the fact was that she had been busy with food vlogs for a week and had not dated Xiaqing, yet Xiaqing did not take the initiative to find her. Instead, his whereabouts were very strange. Lan Shi had recently learned a lot about Earth's emotional knowledge. She knew that after the conquest relationship began on Earth, there would be a 3-month honeymoon period. After 3 months, the emotional intensity would decrease and the freshness would fade. Many people would then think of jumping out of this conquest relationship to see the outside world. If not stopped in time, it would lead to cheating and eventually the breakdown of this conquest relationship. Thinking of her conquest relationship with Xiaqing ending and Xiaqing finding someone else, Lan Shi shuddered all over. How could this be allowed? In the Mui Star world, there is no breakup between royals, only widowhood. If Xiaqing really cheated, then she would have to beat him to death according to practice. Peace in the universe is Lan Shi's greatest wish, especially on Earth. She hadn't yet eaten enough good food here, so beating Xiaqing to death would be very bad and illegal. It must be for this reason that Lan Shi would absolutely not beat Xiaqing to death. The most urgent task now was to find out what Xiaqing had been busy with recently and nip the dangerous spark in the bud. It was fine not to check, but when Lan Shi checked, she couldn't help but lose face. She discovered that Xiaqing had secretly contacted her hated cousin Dong Ying. It should be known that Dong Ying had previously coveted Xiaqing as well. Plus Dong Ying probably knew about her relationship with Xiaqing now. Based on the fine tradition of snatching everything that belonged to Lan Shi, Dong Ying must be even more aggressive towards Xiaqing. Lan Shi was angry and anxious. She secretly followed Xiaqing and found that he had started frequent private meetings with Dong Ying. He clearly knew my cousin was my archenemy. No. Dong Ying had the ability of subliminal messaging. Was it possible that when she learned Lan Shi didn't invite her to the previous group date, she resented it in her heart and took the opportunity to trap Xiaqing and gave him some subliminal messages? Forget it, rather than entangle and doubt oneself, why not confront cousin directly to find out the truth? Afraid of being fooled by Dong Ying's abilities when meeting face-to-face, Lan Shi threatened Wang Jiqiang for Dong Ying's phone number as precaution before deciding to communicate with Dong Ying on the phone. As for the method of communication, Lan Shi also decided to focus on frankness. As soon as the call connected, Lan Shi decided to open the door and enter the room. Since they were both now on Earth, they should first do as the Romans do and declare in Earth's way. Xiaqing is the Earthman I conquered. Although he was previously single and ownerless, he is now occupied by me and has become owned, so he belongs to me, Lan Shi's property. If you steal owned objects, you infringe my private property rights. I recently discovered that you have been frequently contacting Xiaqing privately. If you have malicious intent, I will send you a lawyer's letter. So I am calling now to declare my ownership rights over Xiaqing. As a result, Lan Shi's passionate speech only exchanged contemptuous ridicule from her cousin. On Earth, stealing is a crime. Stealing a person is not a crime, at most immoral, but morality in the face of great love is nothing. Ownership? Have you married Xiaqing? How did he become your property? Haven't you heard the saying, if there is an owner of fine grass, I will loosen the soil? Everyone is single. Feelings are based on mutual affection. What if I happened to strike some sparks with Xiaqing during work cooperation and he finally realized that I am the one more suitable for him? Then bye-bye with you, and take refuge in my arms. What's the problem? Dong Ying's voice was gloating and annoying. From an Earth person's perspective, aren't my age and background more evenly matched and compatible with Xiaqing? Look, we are both very successful in our careers, similar in age, we will have more common topics. I also look good. We should be a perfect match. What? You can take the initiative to contact and warn me alone. Are you worried that Xiaqing may really run away? Dong Ying's voice became louder and louder, rather smug. Weren't you always winning against me, very confident? Now what, scared? Lan Shi was so angry that she was speechless, because she found that what Dong Ying said was quite reasonable, and she even had no rebuttal. So she could only pretend to be calm and retort, I'm not scared at all. I'm very confident. As such a beautiful and noble princess, Xiaqing isn't blind. I'm just caring about the fragile Earthman who doesn't understand the sinister alien. What if you take advantage of Xiaqing and give him a subliminal message? Then Xiaqing would be innocent. Dong Ying's answer didn't hesitate at all. I can assure you that I didn't give Xiaqing any subliminal messages this time. I'm going to win you fair and square this time. Although Lan Shi's cousin always snatched things from Lan Shi, there was one thing, she did keep her words. Since she said she didn't give Xiaqing any hints, it should be true. But She still pretended to be calm and refuted, "You are so insidious, even without subliminal messages. What if Xiaqing still falls into your trap? He is a naive Earth man. Fragile, needing protection." Unfortunately, Dongying didn't care about Shi's provocation at all. "Anyway, I have dinner with Xiaqing tonight, and it's at Jinxiu Tower Restaurant." Dongying boasted and then arrogantly hung up the phone, leaving Shi standing there, almost exploding with anger. She rarely felt that kind of feeling again, both grieved and angry, as well as helpless. Her heart felt sour, swollen and uncomfortable, as if she had a stomach disease that could not be cured without medicine. She knew she should be more confident. After all, she was a princess, and had never felt nervous about anything. She had absolute power that could overlook the entire Mui star, and such power was unmatched on Earth. She was strong, proud, and had always been so. However, at this moment, even if she didn't want to admit it, Shi also knew that her heart was in turmoil because of what Dongying had said, and at this moment, she suddenly understood intuitively what it felt like to fear loss. As a princess, she should have dismissed Dongying's provocation with disdain, because the noble princess should not worry about such trivial matters. If Xiaqing really left her and fell into Dongying's arms, Shi should not be angry either, but should show indifference. Because a princess should not care about such things. A princess should always be strong, elegant, and high above. How could she easily fall into love and hatred for an earthling? Her future and destiny lay among the stars and oceans. She was the woman who would conquer the universe. But Shi decided to give Xiaqing a chance. She called Xiaqing. "Xiaqing, I want to have dinner with you tonight." However, Xiaqing, who was always at her beck and call, seemed a bit abnormal this time. His voice was unnatural, and then Shi heard him clear his throat. "I have a customer reception for work tonight. I'm afraid I can't have dinner with you." Shi bit her lip. "Is the customer from work male or female?" "Male." Up to TED chapters NN Velben. Calm. Xiaqing didn't even think about it, not even hesitating for a second, before calmly lying to her. Shi hung up the phone, incredulously mixed with a strong sense of betrayal, feeling that her whole heart was soaking in the sour hawthorn juice, and if she continued soaking, it would rot and deteriorate. She felt very, very uncomfortable, empty inside. Dongying said that she had an appointment with Xiaqing tonight, and Xiaqing also confirmed that he did have an appointment tonight, but he lied to her that the appointment was with a man. If he had openly admitted that he had an appointment with Dongying to discuss work matters, it would still be considered frank, which would be reassuring. But now he blatantly lied, and Shi felt something was terribly wrong. She knew she shouldn't care so much. A princess should always be elegant and calm, but she couldn't stop the unease in her heart at all. Oh well, she would just go and see for herself. It wasn't because she cared about Xiaqing, an earthling. It was just to cherish her own time. After all, if she caught Xiaqing betraying her on the spot, she would draw the line with him then and there. She wouldn't waste time trying to conquer him anymore. Resolve it quickly, and quickly find another earthling man to conquer. This was how she convinced herself all the way. She almost flew to Jin Yulu, then pretended to be calm and went to the front desk. "Miss, do you have a reservation?" "Yes," Shi said coldly, "under Miss Dong's reservation." She pretended to be troubled. "It might be under Mr. Xia's reservation." "Can you check it for me?" The front desk clerk quickly confirmed the private room. "It's under Miss Dong's reservation, in room 204. "I'll take you there." Shi's heart was beating very fast, but she steadied her mind and followed the clerk to the door of room 204. Taking a deep breath, Shi pushed aside the beaded curtain and walked in, and as expected, her gaze collided with Dongying, who was looking towards the door. There was only Dongying in the private room now. Xia hadn't arrived yet? Shi was about to question angrily, but before she could even open her mouth, she suddenly heard Dongying smile at her with ill intent. Shi's alarm bells went off in her heart instantly, but before she could react to anything, she heard Dongying open her mouth. Now you will go back to Xiacheng's villa, and wait for Xiacheng to come home. When you see him, you will say everything you truly feel in your heart that you can't hide. Dongying revealed an old treacherous smile. I'll make you embarrass yourself in front of Xiacheng. Oh no! How could she forget to be wary of this? But it was too late. Although Shi didn't want to leave Jin Yulu, she still had to keep an eye on Dongying and Xiacheng. As a result, her feet seemed to take on a will of their own and turned to walk back. When Shi reacted again, she was already reluctantly standing at the door of Xiacheng's villa. She hated Dongying to death. How dare she and Xiacheng eat and drink merrily in the restaurant, while she herself had to sneak back dejectedly to Xiacheng's villa door. In the past, Shi would have just opened the door and went in, but now she had to be a princess of quality. The more Shi thought about it, the stronger her grievances became. She angrily rang Xiacheng's doorbell again and again, as if to vent her anger. Unexpectedly, soon after the doorbell rang, there was a sound from the villa, and a while later, the door opened, revealing Xiacheng's face. He looked at Shi in surprise, then his expression became embarrassed and at a loss, looking just like being caught cheating. Shi, why are you here? Shi didn't want to hear that. What do you mean, why am I here? Can I not be here? Of course you can come, but now may not be the right time. Why is it not the right time? Are you secretly hiding someone at home to cheat? And didn't you say you were receiving a male customer? How come you're at home? And isn't it true that you made an appointment to meet privately with Dongying? She was eagerly waiting for you early in the private room at Jin Yulu. How come you're still at home? Not only are you two-timing Dongying, do you have someone else hidden at home? Shi should have been calm, cool and indifferent, even if it was pretended. She should have maintained her dignity and self-esteem as a princess, but her damn cousin had messed everything up now. Her mouth was like a runaway train, spewing out all the questions in her heart to Xiacheng. Completely illogical, no structure, and no dignity at all. At this moment Shi simply wanted to immediately contact her home planet to find a spaceship to flee the Earth at the speed of light, but the fact was that as soon as she turned around, Xiacheng grabbed her hand. His expression was helpless but somewhat amused. What have you been thinking about every day? It's true that I've been meeting frequently with Dongying recently, but I didn't make an appointment with her today. And yes, I didn't actually meet a customer either. She was still very upset, her eyes were almost red. So what the hell were you sneakily doing? Why can't I go in if there's no one in the house? And why were you frequently contacting Dongying before? I told you my cousin is very nasty. But after all, she is your cousin, at least she has known you longer than me, and understands you better. Xiacheng said as he led Shi into the house. Come in, there really is no one else in the house, but the house is a bit messy, don't be too surprised. As long as there was no one else, what else could surprise Shi? But after entering the house, Shi was still shocked by the scene in the living room. The originally neat and tidy living room was now full of inflated balloons everywhere, scattered with some decorative ribbons and an air pump. Was this a party preparation? Shi really wanted to control her mouth, but very helplessly, the words came out uncontrollably. Who are you preparing a party for? I'm unhappy that you're preparing this for others. Because you are mine, the Earthling I conquered. Your time, your body, your attention, should all belong to me. You can't lie to me. You should be honest, because I really trust you, and I really need you. Although I can completely reconquer another Earthling, I am also a super noble princess. I shouldn't care about these trivial things, I should focus on the great cause of conquering the earth. I shouldn't cling to these petty love, but I really can't stand it. I don't want you to have dinner with Dongying, I don't want you to smile at other women, I don't want you to ignore me. Lan Shi desperately hoped that Dongying's skills would lose effect immediately, but wishes were not horses, she still could not control the feelings that poured from her heart. I hope your gaze belongs to me, your smile belongs to me, your joy, anger, sorrow and happiness all belong to me, said Lan Shi. I know this is very domineering, but I am after all a princess. A princess's command should be followed, right? I also think you should do this, you also have sufficient reasons to need to do this, replied Xia Cheng, his expression changing from initial bewilderment to later subtlety and finally to a smile of complex interest. When this man smiled. So what sufficient reasons do I have to need to do this? Lan Shi pathetically wanted to cover her mouth, but her voice still leaked out, because I like you, I need you. It was all because of that wretched skill of Dong Ying's, and also because of her own wretched mouth. After Lan Shi finished speaking, she felt extremely embarrassed and shy, thinking that she had lost face. She stubbornly continued, after saying all this, I'm going to leave Earth. When one is in an awkward situation, there is no safer coping mechanism than thoroughly running away from Earth. But Xia Qing grabbed her. Lan Shi, I'm really happy and excited to hear you say these things, he said. Although after getting together, I was certain you also liked me, I had always felt very uneasy, not knowing how deep this liking of yours was, and also not knowing whether you could really understand human feelings on Earth. Xia Qing had a very serious expression, and his gaze was also very focused. For a period of time, I would feel a little insecure, but thank you for telling me this, I feel much better now. It wasn't intentionally deceiving you that I frequently met with Dongying. It was because I wanted to understand you better through her, especially since I didn't know your birthday but really wanted to prepare a birthday party for you. Dongying said your birthday was coming up soon, so I wanted to give you a surprise. I couldn't participate in your past life, but I hope there will always be my shadow in your future. So this party you prepared was for me? Then, Dongying had also deceived her. She had deliberately guided her to go to Jin Show building, then gave Lan Shi a psychological suggestion to expect her to embarrass herself in front of Xia Qing. Her wretched cousin who had come to Earth many years ago had clearly long understood the intricate schemes of Earth people. Xia Qing was a little awkward, but still nodded. Dongying said that according to the calendar of Mui Star, converted to Earth's calendar, it would be tomorrow. So I started preparing since tonight. The frequent meetings with her were also because each time she demanded that I treat her to a meal before she would tell me some of your preferences. However, she promised not to use any psychological suggestions on me, and she did keep her word. There was nothing unusual in our few meetings. It was wrong of me to lie to you. I won't do it again in the future. He felt somewhat embarrassed, but a surprise birthday party would probably have. It doesn't matter. Lan Shi was very happy instead, whether it's surprising or not is unimportant. Being able to prepare together with you makes me very happy already. Dongying definitely hadn't expected that she thought Lan Shi confessing her true feelings to Xia Qing would be embarrassing, yet people who truly like each other can accept all of you as you are. And Lan Shi had never known that Xia Qing was also insecure before. Was it because of the disparity in status and identity between her and him? Was it because Lan Shi was a princess? However, when faced with Lan Shi's question, Xia Qing shook his head. He looked at Lan Shi, then shifted his gaze away, pursed his lips. Previously at your mixer, Wang Jiqiang said that you were different from them. Your goal was to conquer Earth and then complete your tempering before returning to your home planet. I don't know when you would have to go back. Besides, after all you are the princess of your planet, unlike Wang Jiqiang who is an ordinary civilian. So you shoulder some of the planet's missions and would have to go back, right? Sometimes I would often worry that I could still see you in the morning, but by afternoon you might have run back to your own planet. This was an issue that Lan-Shi had considered before as well. But who said I had already conquered Earth? She unnaturally cleared her throat. Although I did conquer you, I feel that the conquest isn't thorough enough. Firstly, we haven't slept together. Secondly, we aren't married either. So just conquering you alone still requires a long-term plan of spending a lot more time. Additionally, after conquering just one Earthling like you, there is still some distance to go on the road of conquering Earth. After all, to conquer Earth, I should first understand Earth. Since I haven't explored all the places on Earth or tasted all the delicacies of Earth, how can I brazenly say that I already have sufficient knowledge reserves to take the first step of conquering Earth? Besides, the 2003 edition of the expert-compiled Earthling Conquest Guide that we have is already 10 Earth years behind, with so many mistakes. As a princess, shouldn't I shoulder the responsibility of correcting and revising it? Only then would it be convenient for our other tribesmen who come to Earth later to integrate themselves and conquer Earth. As for my identity as a princess, I've said it before too. Reproduction on Mui Star isn't the same as Earth. Other than me, Mui Star has nearly 100 other princesses. Losing me wouldn't matter much. Mui Star civilization would still function as per normal. But for you, there is only me as a princess. Losing me might cause your life to collapse. Lan-Shi discovered that as she spoke, Xia Cheng's eyes became brighter and brighter, first moved, then gentle. Lan-Shi gazed into his eyes like this. Besides, I've discovered now that the methods of conquest described in the Earthling Conquest Guide aren't necessarily right. The true conquest of a planet isn't through military rule, but bloodless surrender. Xia Cheng became interested. So how do you plan to get bloodless surrender? That is, fuse our genes on Mui Star with Earthlings, passing them down through the generations, ultimately completing the multiplication and integration of the people of Mui Star on Earth. This would be true conquest. These were Lan-Shi's truest feelings. I had previously felt that a princess should be strong at all times, not fragile. My combat power had always been my strength, and was also what I relied too much on. But perhaps military conquest isn't that omnipotent. A princess doesn't necessarily have to be strong, right? Xia Cheng hugged her. He kissed Lan-Shi's ear. That's right, a princess can also occasionally be fragile, insecure, jealous, upset, because liking someone brings a person all sorts of experiences. You can also have these occasional negative emotions, but remember that you still have me. When you are by my side, you don't need to always be tough and strong. You can also be fragile because I will be your knight, protecting my princess all the way. This is because if the amount you like me is the distance from Earth to Mui Star, then my feelings for you would be that distance of Earth to Mui Star, then circling back from Mui Star to Earth again. All of my time, body, gaze, smile, everything belongs only to you. You might not have completely conquered Earth yet, but you have indeed completely conquered me. As Lan-Shi looked into Xia Cheng's eyes, she felt they were more beautiful than any nebula she had seen during interstellar travel. She finally stopped being so insecure, because she was certain that the Earthling before her eyes belonged to her, and only to her. Liang Di had been leading a fulfilling life these past few months. After reconciling with Chaowen, their relationship entered a sweeter and more passionate phase. Although one would expect more frequent dates with Chaowen due to their deepened connection, the reality was that both of them were busy with work. They ended up inexplicably scheduling overtime together. However, Liang Di had a passion for working overtime because Xingxin, the company she worked for, experienced a significant boost in business after launching a new weather software. The company was bustling with activity, and as a gesture of gratitude to all the early employees, Xia Cheng introduced an equity incentive plan. Liang Di and Chaowen were allotted different amounts of shares, eagerly awaiting Xingxin's further growth and eventual listing. Liang Di even joked that she might become a wealthy woman who earns money effortlessly just by holding those shares. Due to the immense business opportunities presented by the weather software, influential figures from various industries started visiting Xia Cheng's office. Some of them were renowned experts in their fields, and despite being old enough to be Xia Cheng's father, they treated him with great respect and deference. Initially, Liang Di didn't think much of it. However, as more and more big shots came and went, their attitudes towards Xia Cheng became increasingly reverential. Some even displayed a pilgrimage-like reverence that struck Liang Di as highly unusual. Her suspicions deepened when she accidentally witnessed Xia Cheng bidding farewell to one of the senior executives. It confirmed her belief that something was seriously amiss. During their lunch break, she nudged Lan Shi, who sat at the adjacent workstation, and shared her discovery. "Listen, you need to be wary," she whispered. Not long ago, rumors circulated online about Xia Cheng and Lan Shi being involved romantically. However, those rumors were eventually proven false. Surprisingly, Liang Di observed that Lan Shi and Xia Cheng had indeed embarked on a genuine relationship. Xia Cheng took the opportunity to publicly announce their relationship within the company. Strangely, his open approach alleviated any tension among the employees, and Lan Shi continued to fulfill her previous role as a data analyst. Xia Cheng maintained a clear distinction between personal and professional matters and didn't show any favoritism towards Lan Shi because of their relationship. Their interactions with colleagues remained unaltered, and over time, everyone grew accustomed to the situation. Liang Di's attitude towards Lan Shi did not change either. From her perspective, Lan Shi had put in a great deal of effort to win over Xia Cheng and transform an unhealthy relationship into a legitimate romantic one. It was a result of genuine affection and a reciprocated commitment that allowed them to reach the stage where clouds parted, revealing a bright moon. Therefore, as a friend, Liang Di felt compelled to offer a reminder: you need to be cautious. While our weather software indeed has tremendous potential in the market, it shouldn't make influential figures from various industries bow down to us, right? Lowering her voice, Liang Di added, "Moreover, the other day when I witnessed President Lin, the real estate tycoon, bidding farewell to Xia Cheng, he persistently refused the house that President Lin wanted to give him. But President Lin insisted on gifting it, saying it would be their future marital home." Recalling this incident, Liang Di still felt a lingering fear. President Lin firmly disagreed, saying there were too many and couldn't accept them. I was actually wondering how many he would accept, but when I heard it, President Lin gave him 365 sets. Villas from all over the country, 365 sets. So that he can live in a different one every day. Can you believe it? It's truly unbelievable. Lan Shi couldn't help but shake her head in disbelief. How could he only give 365 sets? The Earth has leap years and regular years. Leap years have 366 days. What does it mean for President Lin to give 365 sets? Lan Shi immediately became indignant, but before she could criticize President Lin, Liang Di's words struck her ears. "Lan Shi, President Lin must be trying to win over Xia Cheng. I did the math, considering his age, if he has a child, they would be around the same age as us. Look, he clearly has his eyes on Xia Cheng, wanting him to become his son-in-law. He even went as far as giving him a bridal house. The problem is, it's not just him who's interested in our President Cheng. Zhang, Wang, Qin, all those presidents, they've come over eagerly to visit President Cheng. If it was a normal business negotiation, would they lower themselves like this? It's because they see Xia Cheng's abilities and want to have him as their daughter's husband. They want to groom him to manage their enterprises in the future, to be the successor of the next generation. That's why they're seeking his favor and showing this attitude." Liang Di looked at Lan Shi, frustrated. "You know, so many people are keeping an eye on President Cheng. Besides these presidents who are looking for a son-in-law, there are also many eligible women in the companies he cooperates with. Lan Shi, you have to keep a close eye on President Cheng. I'm really afraid that just as you're about to bear fruit, someone will come and ruin it. Liang Di grew more agitated as she spoke. You have to understand how far the distance is between dating a man and marrying him. My dear sister, you can't let it go on like this. At the very least, fill up Xia Cheng's personal time. As for those presidents, I always feel they have ulterior motives. But faced with Liang Di's heartfelt words, Lan Shi wasn't concerned. She waved her hand. It's fine, those presidents are on our side. They're just here to bless us and give gifts. Later, I'll ask them to tone it down. How could that be possible? Lan Shi was just an ordinary employee from a mountainous area, and those people are well-known figures in the industry. They couldn't possibly know Lan Shi. Liang Di couldn't help but exclaim, did Xia Cheng say those things to you? He must be deceiving you. But even in this situation, Lan Shi shook her head repeatedly, no, no. Lan Shi looked at Liang Di before her, feeling deeply moved. Liang Di genuinely cared about her. Since Liang Di was Xia Cheng's younger sister, she could be considered part of their circle. After struggling for a moment, Lan Shi made a significant decision. She held Liang Di's hand and solemnly said, Liang Di, I have a secret to tell you. Lan Shi looked into Liang Di's eyes and spoke slowly, I'm actually a princess. Liang Di burst into laughter, thoroughly amused. I thought you were going to say something else. What a coincidence! You're a princess, and I'm a princess too, she chuckled. In this day and age, who doesn't pamper themselves like a little princess? The best thing is indeed to love oneself. Lan Shi attempted to explain, not that kind of princess. I'm a real princess, you know? I'm the princess of Mui Star, a very noble one. Xia Cheng even calls me princess. But Liang Di waved her hand dismissively. Stop! I don't want to be a part of your princess and prince play. Don't tell me about your romantic affairs anymore. Lan Shi had poor social skills to begin with, often saying peculiar things. Liang Di was already used to it and quickly immersed herself in her work, completely forgetting Lan Shi's offhand comment. Fortunately, for some unknown reason, those industry big shots had indeed become quieter lately, and there were fewer people coming to see Xia Cheng. Perhaps Xia Cheng's resolute refusal had shaken their confidence and motivation? With this thought, Liang Di felt that Xia Cheng had barely passed this round. Liang Di wholeheartedly joined forces with Lan Shi, happily working together. On this day, both Chaowen and Xia Cheng were away on a business trip, so they were carefree and focused on their work. Before Liang Di realized it, they were the only two left in the entire company. Liang Di initially planned to take a taxi with Lan Shi, but Lan Shi refused, telling her that a fellow villager would come to pick her up. Liang Di didn't doubt it, considering that recently Lan Shi often brought various delicacies to the company, claiming they were sent by her fellow villagers. So Liang Di waved goodbye to Lan Shi and headed towards the subway station. However, just before entering the station, she suddenly realized that she had forgotten the key to the employee dormitory and had to rush back to the company to retrieve it. As a result of this back and forth, Liang Di unexpectedly stumbled upon a shocking secret. Mr. Lin, who had previously been fawning over Xia Cheng, promising to give him hundreds of properties, now stood obsequiously in front of Lan Shi. The two of them were standing beside a Rolls-Royce parked at the entrance of Qingxin Building, whispering to each other. Was this Mr. Lin's way of trying to deceive Lan Shi after failing with Xia Cheng? But before Liang Di could make sense of it all, she saw Mr. Lin personally open the car door for Lan Shi, and without any suspicion, Lan Shi confidently got in. What could Mr. Lin want from Lan Shi? It was obvious that these two individuals had no connection whatsoever. Moreover, shouldn't Lan Shi have been waiting for her fellow villager? How did Mr. Lin intercept her halfway? Lan Shi had no understanding of social norms or the dangers of society. Now that Chaowen and Xiaqing were both on a business trip, Liang Di felt it was her duty to ensure Lan Shi's safety. Without much thought, Liang Di hailed a taxi and followed President Lin's Rolls-Royce. The Rolls-Royce stopped at the entrance of Jinlin Clubhouse. President Lin, with a humble expression, got out of the car first and respectfully opened the door for Lan Shi, acting like a servant. This development left Liang Di even more perplexed. As Liang Di stealthily bypassed the security guard at the entrance of the clubhouse and attempted to sneak into one of the private rooms while the people at the door were distracted, she was unexpectedly discovered by Lan Shi. Lan Shi looked at her in surprise and exclaimed, "Liang Di, what are you doing here?" Standing behind Lan Shi was President Lin, who stared at Liang Di with a vigilant expression, as if facing a formidable enemy. Fortunately, Lan Shi turned back and reassured President Lin with a glance, saying, "It's all right, she's one of us." However, President Lin remained cautious. He pulled Lan Shi aside and whispered something to her in a low voice, which Liang Di could only vaguely overhear due to the distance. She caught snippets of words such as Xiaqing, relative, no, and princess identity. Strangely enough, after their conversation, President Lin, who had a serious expression just moments ago, immediately revealed a respectful smile towards Liang Di. "Miss Liang, I must apologize for my ignorance and lack of knowledge," President Lin said with a sincere and humble expression. "I should have visited you earlier and brought you some local specialties from our planet. However, when I tried to present gifts and offerings to the prince consort, he firmly rejected them and even complained that I visited his company too frequently, ordering me not to appear for a while. So I never had a chance to meet you." The way President Lin looked, with his serious and humble demeanor, made Liang Di wonder if she was witnessing a bizarre act. What on earth was going on? Why were President Lin, Lan Shi, and the others gathered together? Was it some kind of rehearsal for a new type of theatrical performance in Rong City? After President Lin finished speaking, he took out a key from his pocket and said, "As it is our first meeting, I didn't bring any proper gift. A small villa may not be a sufficient expression of respect, but I don't have anything more presentable at the moment. So, let me offer you a standalone villa in Xiangjiang Garden." Liang Di looked at the house key in President Lin's hand and couldn't help but think that it all seemed like a well-rehearsed play. A standalone villa in Xiangjiang Garden. That was one of the most exclusive and valuable villa areas in Rong City. Even if President Lin was wealthy, rich people were usually very shrewd. They wouldn't give away something so easily. Liang Di suspected that the key was nothing more than a prop, so she didn't take it. However, before she could clarify what was really going on, she heard an argument between two men behind her. "Are you out of your mind? I was the one who started dating Mei Mei. When I came to Earth, you didn't even know where you were in some corner of the universe. Now that you've grown wings, you think you can be a homewrecker? Mei Mei is already with me. Why are you sticking your head in here? You're over 600 years old. Take a good look at yourself in the mirror. You're 456 years older than Mei Mei. And you're lying to her, saying you're the same age. Have you no shame? Young people should be with young people. You shouldn't be with an old guy like you. Besides, you two aren't even married. Why shouldn't I have a fair chance to compete?" Liang Di focused her gaze and took a look. She recognized both of these men. Weren't they the actors who recently played the leading and supporting roles in a Socialist Brotherhood-themed web drama? Both of them were exceptionally charismatic on and off the screen, with their intense eye contact even sparking rumors that their on-screen chemistry had spilled over into real life. Many people were avidly shipping their fictional couple, speculating about their relationship. Why did they now have eyes blazing with hatred, as if they wanted to kill each other? It must be part of the act. Indeed, this was a theater company, and they had even managed to recruit these two male actors to join and support the production. The outlandish lines they had just delivered were clearly part of the rehearsal. Liang Di suddenly realized it. She understood the quirks of wealthy individuals, people like President Lin who belonged to the wealth class. Hiring attractive men and women, even for pretend domestic play acting, was simply a matter of personal interest. Perhaps they chose Lan Shi because they found her physically attractive. Was the same reasoning behind their choice of Xia Cheng? Discover NW Chapter SNN0EL.com. But before Liang Di could ponder further, she witnessed something unexpected. The two male actors, who were previously engaged in dialogue, suddenly transitioned into a fight scene and started brawling. Their fight was unusually fierce, and their expressions seemed genuinely intense. However, before Liang Di could marvel at their unpredictable acting skills, she noticed that something was off about the fight. One of them sprouted a third arm from his back. While the two normal arms held the other person down, the additional arm landed resounding slaps across the opponent's face. And the other person retaliated by spewing a fireball from his mouth. Yet, the most absurd part was when someone from the crowd stepped forward to intervene. Extending a finger, it seemed as though a faucet had been turned on, and water gushed out, extinguishing the fire. Someone from the crowd finally couldn't bear watching any longer. While zapping the two fighters with electricity, they angrily scolded. "You two, even if you're jealous of each other, have some sense of occasion. Fooling around like this in front of the princess, do you want to die?" Given the circumstances, it was clear that continuing to deceive oneself with the notion of rehearsing a play was no longer feasible. Liang Di stared in disbelief at the scene before her, feeling utterly bewildered. She grabbed Lan Shi, who remained calm and composed beside her, and pleaded, "Lan Shi, punch me once. Tell me this is all just an illusion." Perplexed, Lan Shi responded with a soul-searching question, "Punch you? Are you serious? Be gentle. Just don't give me a concussion." In response, Lan Shi, claiming to already be holding back, threw a punch. Liang Di didn't suffer a concussion, but 2 streaks of blood appeared under her nose. The pain brought tears to her eyes, and in that moment, she confirmed that everything was real. None of this could be explained by science. Anxious, Liang Di clutched Lan Shi's arm and asked, "Lan Shi, what on earth is happening here? Do you not already know?" Lan Shi replied calmly, "I am the princess of Mui Star, and these are my extraterrestrial subjects, the compatriots who often give me snacks. President Lin's visits to Xiacheng are not with any ill intentions, it's just a normal tribute to the prince consort. Of course, since you are Xiacheng's sister, you will also be of noble blood in the future. Because you are one of us, I don't need to hide my true identity from you." Liang Di was dumbfounded. Xiacheng's sister. Before she could explain, a familiar voice interjected with despair, "My princess. This isn't Xiacheng's sister at all. She's not one of us." Liang Di looked closely and realized it was Wang Jiqiang, sweating profusely and looking flustered. The only composed one, Lan Shi, also seemed perplexed. "Didn't you say there was a relative of the company here? Liang Di has always called Xiacheng my brother, so isn't she the relative you were talking about?" Wang Jiqiang was on the verge of tears. "My dear princess. My brother is just a term used by fans. The relative is clearly Wan Yan. Luckily, you have good instincts, or else I would have been worried about you surviving the first episode in a palace intrigue." At that moment, Liang Di's thoughts were not focused on taking photos or videos for evidence, but on rushing to President Lin and snatching the villa key from his hand. "President Lin, let's make a deal. I'll gladly accept this house. Since it wasn't a stage play, it meant that the Xiangjiang Garden Villa they were giving away was real. Liang Di couldn't afford to miss out on this opportunity. However, the President Lin, who had been respectful towards Liang Di just a moment ago, suddenly changed his expression. He promptly pulled back his key and shouted, "Jiqiang, since this is an unrelated Earthling, we need to clear her memory. Don't you know someone from our clan who can do memory erasure? How effective is their ability? They can basically erase everything and make the memories feel like a dream, but there's one impactful fact that will remain firmly imprinted in her subconscious. She'll frequently remind herself of it," Wang Jiqiang said, glancing at Liang Di. He sounded almost certain. "It's all right, she will definitely remember that Lan Shi is a princess. It's not bad to have this suggestion embedded in her mind. Just look at her, she has been working overtime with the princess lately. It's a good thing for her to remember this suggestion. It's time for the princess to take a good rest. The prince consort and I will report her excessive overtime. They both have had less time for each other and fewer sweet moments together." When Liang Di woke up again, she was in her own dormitory bed. Although she remembered going to bed early, she still felt exhausted and she couldn't even recall how she got home last night. It felt like she had experienced an incredibly long and absurd dream. The only thing she could remember was receiving a standalone villa in Xiangjiang Garden and President Lin respectfully handing her the key. Liang Di believed that people don't have strange dreams for no reason, every dream can be deciphered. So, what does this dream of hers mean? It must be a hint of fate. It suggests that if she continues to work overtime like she does now, she will be able to live in a luxurious standalone villa in Xiangjiang Garden. So, what is she waiting for? Liang Di quickly got up. Even though it was the weekend, she couldn't miss out on working hard. She had to use her own advancement to motivate those around her, particularly Lan Shi, who was struggling financially. She was determined to pull Lan Shi, who had nothing, along with her to work overtime together. She had to wash Lan Shi's brain thoroughly. Love may disappoint you, but money and career surely won't. It's a beautiful weekend, but what's important is getting up and working hard. Ever since Xiaqing took Lan Shi to a charity gala a week ago, Lan Shi had been acting a little strange. For some reason over the past couple of days, she seemed to have become obsessed with crocodiles. Not only was she looking up information about different crocodile species all day long and researching them, she even went to the zoo and bought tickets to see the crocodiles 3 times. After Xiaqing got off work in the evenings, Lan Shi would excitedly grab his hand and tell him that she had finally found a crocodile breeding center in Rong City after a long search. Mui Star thought that Lan Shi developing a special liking for crocodiles was rather unexpected since there were no crocodiles on the planet, but loving animals was always a good thing. "So what kind of crocodiles do you like?" "The little baby crocodiles." Xiaqing still remembered how definitive Lan Shi looked when he asked her, which Xiaqing found cute and innocent. Xiaqing did a simple background check on the crocodile breeding facility in Rong City. It was a legitimate company with all the proper certifications and licenses. On normal days, they provided crocodile viewing and feeding activities for tourists. Lan Shi pestered him to go, and after verifying their qualifications, Xiaqing did not stop her. EAD new chapter S on no/v/e/ln.com. Just remember to come back early. There's a gala in the evening that I'm taking you to as well, with lots of delicious food. Lan Shi readily agreed and demonstrated tremendous enthusiasm. "That's great. The timing is perfect. I was just thinking that I'd love to attend a gala tonight." Since Lan Shi would go straight to the gala from the crocodile breeding facility and Xiaqing would head over directly after his meeting ended, the two made plans to meet up at the gala. Xiaqing had originally expected to arrive before Lanshi, but his meeting ended up running nearly 30 minutes overtime. By the time he finally got off work and headed over, he caught sight of a familiar figure walking ahead of him as soon as he stepped out of the car. Xiaqing couldn't help but smile. Even the back view of his princess was so adorable. It was quite noisy, so even though Xiaqing called out Lanshi's name, she didn't hear him and continued walking ahead. The crowd was a bit packed, making it difficult for Xiaqing to rush forward. But he would be able to catch her attention once they got inside. Lanshi was dressed very nicely today too, wearing a bright red long dress. And the bag she was carrying. Just as Xiaqing's admiring gaze moved from the skirt of Lanshi's dress to her hand, he was no longer able to admire anything. Instead, his pupils shook. Who could tell him why Lanshi was holding a little crocodile in her hand? Afraid that he was dizzy from overwork recently and seeing things, Xiaqing stared closely 2 more times before realizing that his princess girlfriend really was holding a live little crocodile, its tail still swinging back and forth. Even if she liked crocodiles, there was no occasion where she could bring a crocodile. Xiaqing could not wait any longer. He pushed through the crowd, not caring about manners as he rushed up to Lanshi in a panic. Faced with Xiaqing's questioning, however, Lanshi looked very wronged. Why can't I bring a crocodile? At that charity gala last time, a few of the society ladies were huddled together chattering. I heard them say something about crocodile skin bags being a noble symbol, and they each had one. Lanshi cleared her throat and continued, I am, after all, the most noble princess of Mui Star. Don't I deserve to own a crocodile skin bag? If I'm going to choose one, of course it should be the best-looking one. So today I hurried to the breeding center and bought a little crocodile, looked through thousands before picking the cutest one there. And so I brought it with me tonight. I want to show them that this is what true nobility looks like. In the end, after much cajoling from Xiaqing, Lanshi finally gave up on the plan to bring a live crocodile into the banquet. But instead, Xiaqing took her shopping for 5 Hermes crocodile skin bags, thus beginning Lanshi's journey into luxury goods and giving Xiaqing more motivation to work harder. Recently, Lanshi solemnly declared to Xiaqing that although she had decided to settle down and live on Earth for the long term, she was still a princess after all, and should have some responsibilities that a princess should fulfill. She waved her notebook at Xiaqing, so I made a new Earth conquest plan. To conquer Earth, we must start from little things, accumulate bit by bit every day, learn from short-term goals, and eventually accomplish the long-term goal of conquering Earth. Facing Xiaqing's skeptical gaze, she loudly announced, so I decided, starting today, I will conquer a new Earth species every few days. Soon, Lanshi announced the first species she wanted to conquer, the fish raised by Xiaqing. She bought goldfish breeding manuals, goldfish feeding guides and a series of books, and really went about studying them in a serious manner. At first, Xiaqing was a little worried, but seeing Lanshi change the water, clean, and feed the fish regularly while learning, he felt reassured. Xiaqing was even quite happy that Lanshi could have a new hobby, and that she loved these little earth animals very much, which was a good thing. After declaring the successful conquest of Xiaqing's fish, Lanshi immediately embarked on a new path of conquest. Sometimes it was the ladybugs in the yard, sometimes butterflies, sometimes dragonflies. Lanshi slowly got to know the habits and appearances of these little earth creatures. By the time Xiaqing realized it, she had almost become a botanist and zoologist. Things just got a little tricky after Lanshi decided to conquer a dog. There was another vacant detached house next to Xiaqing's villa, and 3 days ago, a young male neighbor moved in there who kept a dog. The dog kept by this new neighbor was what Lanshi had decided to conquer. To conquer a new species, one must have frequent contact with it, of course. Xiaqing saw that Lanshi began to frequently run to this new male neighbor's house. At first, she really just went to see the dog. During the day, the new neighbor was often not at home, so the dog was kept in the yard. Lanshi could see the dog to her heart's content through the fence. But after this new male neighbor discovered Lan Shi's behavior, Xiaqing found that he began to be home frequently during the day. So, every time Lan Shi stood outside the fence of the other's yard and looked inside, this man would appear in the yard with the dog together, wearing leisure suits that were clearly carefully dressed up, and enthusiastically greet Lan Shi together with the dog. Xiaqing hadn't noticed the situation originally until the name Mo Yuan suddenly appeared in Lan Shi's mouth at the dinner table. Today we are having tomato and egg stir-fry. This is one of Mo Yuan's favorite dishes. He said it's also one of his best dishes, and said he would invite me over to his house to eat it next time. Watermelon is also Mo Yuan's favorite fruit. His favorite fruit is exactly the same as mine, Xiaqing, isn't that a coincidence? And I found out he also likes chocolate, which you don't like, but he just so happens to like everything I like too, with completely identical hobbies and tastes as me. Mo Yuan's name immediately set off alarm bells in Xiaqing's mind. Mo Yuan is? Mo Yuan is your neighbor. Lan Shi's tone was very matter-of-fact. His dog is called Renminbi. I've been walking his dog with him every day recently. I feel I'm only one step away from completely conquering Renminbi. When talking about her conquest journey, Lan Shi couldn't help but feel proud. At first I just tried to conquer the dog with my gaze through the fence, but later I found the effect was still lacking. Mo Yuan took me to get close contact with the dog. After knowing the dog's name, calling it makes a whole difference. His dog also understands many commands, like sit down, roll over, etc. Just give it a small piece of dried meat. Discover new stories at nv/lbin.c/o. When it comes to Mo Yuan, there is undisguised admiration in Lan Shi's eyes. In short, thanks to Mo Yuan, I quickly took a shortcut to obtain the secrets of conquering dogs. Now I am very familiar with Renminbi. Mo Yuan asked me to go hiking with Renminbi on weekends. I feel that after the hike, the dog will be completely conquered. Lan Shi meant no harm, but Xiaqing listened with numb scalp. He had been busy with work these 2 days. The meteorological system was undergoing database maintenance, with tedious and complicated affairs, so he had less time to accompany Lan Shi. He had thought Lan Shi was busy conquering dogs, but didn't expect there was this Mo Yuan interfering. This was really overtly seducing his woman right in front of him. He had to think of something. That's all for this part, truckers. See you all in the next video.